Welcome back, everyone. You and I are about to dive into a brand new story called Leveling Up My Husband. Drop a like and subscribe before we start. Our lead girl lived a miserable life and died an even worse death. But when she wakes up in the past, she grabs her second chance. Her goal, to make her husband the ultimate knight. It starts when the daughter of the House of 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 arrives in the harsh eastern marches to marry the Duke. The East is cursed with monsters and famine, but by imperial decree, she is determined to make this marriage work. On their wedding night, the Duke leaves for war without a word. She is left thinking her new husband absolutely hates her. Her mother-in-law steals her entire dowry, and rumors quickly spread that she is nothing more than an abandoned Duchess. When the Duke finally returns from the front lines, they spend one night together, and she is blessed with a child. She thinks she will never be alone again, but to her absolute shock, the Duke does not share her joy at all. In her final winter, the Emperor accuses Duke 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 of high treason. The Duke begs the Emperor to spare her life. It briefly warms her heart, but then he breaks it again by admitting he is only doing it for their unborn baby. She begs the Emperor to spare the infant, but the tyrant just grins and takes her life. It is absolutely cold-blooded. As she fades, her mind is filled with pure regret. Her final wish is to be granted one more opportunity at life. Suddenly, she wakes up in her wedding gown. She cannot believe she has been sent 10 years back in time. Now pay attention here. While she is reeling, her abusive head maid, Grace, enters to tell her the Duke is not coming. As the trauma of her past life flashes before her eyes, she vows never to be afraid of these people again. She seizes this rare opportunity to change her fate. She remembers that in her first life, his absence ruined her reputation. Without meeting him, she could never be recognized as the lady of the house. This time, she will find him. The head maid tries to stop her, but she interrupts. As lady of the house, she will see the Duke before he leaves. Grace leads the way, and when they finally meet, she stands tall and introduces herself as Amber Alisto, his rightful wife. She makes it very clear she is unhappy that the Duke planned to leave for a war without even seeing her face. The Duke gets all flustered while trying to explain. It turns out this fierce warrior is actually a total softie. She keeps the pressure on, asking him not to go. They step aside for a private and serious conversation. He claims he must manage the monster raids, but he flinches when Amber suspects he is just running away from their life. You and I know those monsters are not a threat yet. She tells him to stay and help her adjust to the East. To her surprise, he actually agrees. She takes it further, asking for one more favor to secure her place in the castle. She demands he uses formal titles so the servants will respect her. For a moment, the silence makes her think he will refuse. But the Duke blushes and says yes. He then tells his knights he is staying behind and sends Amber to her room. Back in her chambers, she cannot believe how differently 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒆𝒅 is treating her now. This second life is already so much better. But she cannot rest yet. She needs to establish her power in this palace immediately, so Amber refuses to go to sleep. Instead, she waits for the laundry maids to come out. She is desperately hoping to meet one specific person among the staff. 𝒂𝒆 was the only person who showed her kindness in her past life. She knows 𝒂𝒆 will be her most loyal ally. Just as she is about to call out, her mother-in-law, Belladonna, arrives. The old woman actually mistakes the Duchess for a maid. Amber quickly corrects her and introduces herself. Belladonna is shocked, but she tries to maintain her superior and arrogant attitude. Then Amber drops a bomb. She innocently mentions that she knows Belladonna has been spending her dowry behind her back. Belladonna claims she used the gold for the estate. She tries to make it look like Amber is just being greedy before the staff. But Amber is done being afraid. She tells the old woman that since the assets belong to her husband, he decides everything. This makes Belladonna furious. 𝒂𝒆 tries to help, but the mother-in-law gives the poor girl a brutal, stinging slap. That blow was meant for Amber. Just as Belladonna raises her hand to strike again, the Duke suddenly appears on the scene. Belladonna tries to lie, saying they were just having a small disagreement about some household money, and the wedding dowry. Amber feels hopeless. She knows the Duke never scolded his mother in the past because she was his father's favorite. The Duke demands the truth. When Belladonna admits to using the dowry, the Duke's expression turns absolutely ice-cold and chilling. He ignores his mother and reaches out his hand to his wife. Everyone is stunned by his sudden change of heart. Amber is shocked, but notices something important. The current Carx does not have any of his horrific battle scars on his face yet. You and I are about to see if she can save him from that dark future. Stick around for the next part. All right, you and I are about to see how a simple offer of gold triggers a massive royal misunderstanding between our leads. Instead of feeling relieved, Amber thinks he is just judging her. She assumes he believes she will only spend it on luxuries. She leaves the room coldly. Kalen tells himself it is natural she does not trust him yet, but his mind begins to wander. He remembers their first meeting the night before, and his heart nearly bursts. Looks like our cold Duke is falling head over heels. Years ago, when the monster waves hit the east, Kalen traveled to the capital. He begged the royal palace for help, but was ignored. The east was once a land of lush vineyards. Now, after years of monster attacks and famine, it has become a total wasteland. The king refuses to help because he fears the legendary sword of House Thaliston. He views their martial power as a direct threat. Even though they have no interest in the throne, the Thaliston family must bow to the royals just to get basic supplies. It was during one of these desperate visits that Kalen first saw Amber. She was so radiant, full of life and wealth. When the decree comes to marry her, he worries. He has no way to provide the noble life a lady like her deserves. To fund her lifestyle, he heads to the front lines. He plans to harvest monster cores and sell them for a fortune. Now, watch closely. This is exactly where their massive misunderstanding between the Duke and Duchess truly begins. Back in the present, Amber is healing her maid's face. The staff admits they are grateful she came from the wealthy West. When Amber asks why, they explain their belief that she has the power to change this crumbling castle for the better. Jane kneels and begs Amber to take her under her wing. Amber is stunned. This never happened in her tragic past life. Back then, Amber did nothing but cry. Now, she accepts Jane and vows to succeed. She sees her actions are already changing destiny. During dinner, she is shocked by the feast. It is a massive spread that the Duke clearly prepared just for her. She is so focused on the food that she misses Kalen's soft smile. He is watching her from across the table with adoration. When she finally thanks him, the Duke turns bright red. Instead of answering, he awkwardly fumbles with his wine glass. He then mentions the knights are departing tomorrow. This does not worry Amber, but the upcoming war with the Cal Kingdom does. That conflict will cause the fall of House Thaliston. To survive the damage, she knows they must grow much stronger than before. She offers to help the Duke with his burdens, but he immediately refuses her. He is trying to protect her. She stands up and firmly tells him that she can save the entire Eastern District. She is not taking no for an answer. Amber claims she can end the famine, but he cannot believe it. Their country's food shortage is unlike any other in history. The land has become so poisoned that no one can find a cure. It seems like a hopeless situation for the common people. In her past life, a researcher solved this 8 years later. Amber needs to find her now to save the kingdom today. The Duke's refusal feels like an insult. Amber tells him she is more than a decorative doll, but he is just scared. He is terrified she will see the ugly truth of the East and abandon him. Just tell her how you feel, man. He snaps out of it when Amber vows to be a great duchess. She asks to invite Count Freya's daughter in his name. He agrees, but wonders why her. Amber responds that the young lady is the secret key to finally ending the famine. After dinner, she returns to her chambers. She's going to use her massive dowry to save this entire land. She summons Heinley, the loyal butler. He has served for 3 generations and stayed even through treason charges. In the past, he never took sides and just watched. He remained neutral during every conflict the family ever faced. But this time, stick with me. because Amber is about to change the heart of the most stubborn butler in history. Amber tells Heinley she plans to sell her dowry. She wants to invest every coin back into their starving territories. She knows he won't trust a noblewoman from the Western Savoy families immediately, but she is determined to prove her intent. She explains that her dowry is worth 5 million gold, which is enough to support all the local residents for years. That kind of wealth could feed everyone for at least 3 years, prompting Heinley to finally promise his full assistance to her. They start discussing buyers and financial plans. As Amber reviews the ledgers, the butler's deep worries finally begin to subside. He realizes the new Duchess is the real deal, but Amber is worried about their current weapon deal with the deceitful Count Nasto. The knights need new blades for the war against the Cal Kingdom. Only one man can help them, her own father. She remembers their constant arguing, but he is the only supplier she trusts. She has no choice but to write a letter. After a long, exhausting day, she returns to her room. Waiting for her is the handsome Duke, looking like a dream. With his shirt unbuttoned like that, it is no wonder she starts losing her focus for a moment. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next tonight. Let's dive into a story where one night changes everything. Amber tells him to sleep, but his silence makes her think. He doesn't want to share a bed. She decides the couch is better, then remembers this is the first night for Duke 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅. She tries to discuss their sleeping arrangements, but instead of a conversation, she just treats it like a cold formality. She explains they must share a bed so no one questions their marriage. Just like before, she assumes he's completely uninterested and tells him not to feel burdened by her presence. She heads to bed first, dreaming of the future and seeing her child again. To make that happen, she needs to spend the night with the Duke, but for now, she wants to take things slow. She falls fast asleep, leaving the Duke hanging for the rest of the night. This miscommunication is so strong it actually hurts. The next day, Amber visits the training grounds and is greeted warmly by Sir Dennis, much to 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅's annoyance. She looks at the knights and remembers how many died in her past life, realizing their lives now rest on her shoulders. Meanwhile, Lady Beatrice arrives to offer encouragement, but finds that Amber has already beaten her to it. At first, the knights are confused by this Westerner trying to inspire them. Amber doesn't offer empty thanks, but she vows to guard the eastern marches while they are gone. She wants them to fight at ease, which sends their morale through the roof. Of course, this leaves Beatrice absolutely fuming, while the knights are busy preparing. Amber pulls aside Sir Julian, the captain of the guard. The Duke spots them, and let's just say he's feeling incredibly jealous. Amber asks Sir Julian to retrieve a specific item during the raid, and he agrees without a single question, showing his total trust in the new Duchess. When 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 finds out, she asks Julian for a favor. His tone shifts instantly. He suggests she should have come to him instead, but they are interrupted when Henry arrives. They part ways, yet Amber still can't figure out why the Duke is acting so weirdly. He's clearly jealous, guys. You and I can see it, even if she's totally oblivious. At her office, Jane, the new maid, greets them. Amber immediately assigns her tasks and trusts her to select the rest of the staff, which Jane gladly accepts. She then tells Henry to find a suitable lady-in-waiting, and is shocked to see Earl Frederick already wrote back. She discovers that 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 specifically requested an immediate response, realizing he is actually paying close attention to her needs. She starts to wonder if he might truly change if she treats him differently this time around. She opens the letter and is overjoyed to learn that the Earl and his daughter, Lady Loretta, will be visiting the castle very soon. Loretta seems aloof upon arrival, but when Amber compliments her research paper on crossbreeding plants, her entire face lights up. This is the first time anyone has shown interest in her work, and she's deeply thankful Amber took the time. After all, Amber remembers her from the past as the first researcher from these lands to join the Academy of Mages. The Earl is skeptical that his daughter can help, but Amber assures him that only Loretta has the right skills. The Duke assists his wife and leads the Earl away to discuss investments. Once they are finally alone, Loretta starts talking about plants, but she quickly turns sulky, believing her research is just a waste of time. Pay attention here. Because Amber knows the only reason she failed before was a lack of recognition. Not this time. Amber supports her, telling her that her passion will save the entire province. She decides to invest heavily in Loretta's research on silverroot. It's the only plant that blooms in these harsh lands and survives the poisoned soil. Amber believes Loretta can take those resilient characteristics and apply them to edible crops instead. Loretta is now focused on the crossbreeding, and that item she requested from Sir Julian is the final piece to solving the famine. Amber gives her one last boost of confidence before they leave. Later, Alistair and Amber share tea together. She's in a great mood and congratulates the Duke on securing the investment, but he quickly looks away, his face flushed red. When he doesn't answer, she assumes he's dissatisfied and leaves. Grace then approaches Amber, informing her that her mother-in-law is looking for her. She enters the conservatory and sees Beatrice speaking with other noble ladies, clearly intending to intimidate her. Amber used to be terrified of her, but not anymore. She sits right beside her and asks why she has a key to the conservatory, which falls under the Duchess's care. She finds out the late Duke gave it to Beatrice, who was his clear favorite. The woman turns arrogant and begins to threaten Amber. And trust me, you and I know karma is coming for her. All right, let's watch Lady Amber finally stand her ground against these high society snakes. She isn't afraid anymore. Amber sits down and demands to know why this woman has a key to her private cellar. Lady Isabella claims the late Duke favored her, acting arrogant while trying to threaten our new Duchess. Let us dive into a world of courtly intrigue, where Lady Alara is told she will always be just a Duchess. She stands her ground, asserting her rights as the wife while refusing to be locked away in the tower. But Lady Beatrice acts like a typical low-born villain, locking the doors while her servants restrain our heroine and brandish a whip. Just as the blow is about to fall, a sudden knock at the door makes Beatrice grow even more furious. She is forced to open it, and Sir Alistair appears to rescue Alara, much to her immense surprise and secret relief. He quickly invents an excuse, so Alara can leave that wretched room immediately before things get any worse than they are. Alara forces a smile to hide her fear from Beatrice, but her legs nearly give way once she is finally outside. Alistair explains he volunteered because Sir Cedric was busy, noting that they both happen to share the exact same enemy here. He offers more excuses and leaves before she can probe further, leaving Alara to wonder about his true nature and past. She realizes that the secrets within this castle are far more tangled and dangerous than she ever could have imagined before. That night, Alara suffers a nightmare about her mother-in-law and the tragic death she faced in her previous life. Duke Arthur hears her sobbing and tries to comfort her, but when she wakes, she finds him resting by her side. His peaceful face is almost amusing, yet he departs quickly, making her feel as though he is intentionally avoiding her gaze. Pay attention here, because Alara realizes she underestimated Beatrice's cruelty, and it is starting to haunt her very dreams. In her sleep, she sees the sword the Emperor used to destroy her family, and vows no one will ruin her home. Alara suspects the new lady in waiting and decides to watch her closely during the interview. Sir Cedric reports that the Iron Fleet merchants wish to buy all her jewels, but she doubts they have the gold. He warns her they might use threats to force a lower price, sparking a memory of her past life's bitter struggles. She begins to craft a master plan, determined to handle this situation better than she did in her tragic previous life. Master Silas, the fleet manager, arrives with an arrogant air, claiming no one can offer her a better deal than them. As expected, he offers a pittance for her jewels, but Alara firmly refuses to sell her precious dowry for such trash. He claims the fleet is the law in the eastern marches, and without their trade, the entire region would be abandoned. Only they can provide food and steel, but Alara simply asks if he is finished with his arrogant and hollow speech. Now here is where it gets really good. Watch how she turns the tables on this greedy merchant with total confidence. She reveals she knows he harassed a count's niece and has only 2 months to make amends for his crimes. Alara warns him that if the count finds out, his head will roll, leaving him terrified and desperate for her silence. She claims to know his master's secrets, but offers to resolve his problems if he accepts her very specific new terms. To his absolute shock, Alara demands 5 million gold sovereigns for her jewels, leaving the merchant completely stunned and speechless. He resists, but she describes the Duke's legendary cruelty until he cowers, admitting he only has 3 million gold sovereigns available. She sets conditions for the rest, 1 million in rare goods and the final 1 million for the Emperor's cursed ancient blade. That very sword was used to kill her and her son, and now she intends to take it back from him. Cornered and broken, Silas has no choice but to sign the documents she prepared with such calculated precision. Soon, help arrives at the castle and everyone whispers about their brilliant new Duchess. Even Beatrice notices the shifting tides. Alara is relieved that more maids are loyal to her now, knowing they can finally survive the harsh winter ahead together. However, she is hurt by the Duke's coldness, as he has not even mentioned the precious items she secured for them. She decides to confront him and end this awkward silence, hoping to fix the strained relationship between a husband and wife. The Duke sits alone, knowing he has been avoiding her, feeling like a fool for being unable to face her. He panics, fearing she might leave him if he continues this silence, especially when she finally begins to speak her mind. He jumps up, desperately trying to explain that he is not unhappy with her, but actually feeling quite the opposite instead. Seeing Arthur looking so shy brings her relief, and she asks him to stop avoiding her before discussing their military strength. He also wants to end trade with the Northlands, as they toy with the lives of his people and his knights. He felt forced to submit to anyone who could help, but this time, Alara is standing right there by his side. She explains they must look for merchants outside the eastern marches, specifically the fleet belonging to the Western Kingdom's royal house. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you and I are about to see a massive showdown with her father. Amber knows she must confront her father eventually, despite their strained bond. They have so much history to settle. Stick with me, because you and I are about to jump into a family drama that turns into a royal disaster. Elinor began to despise her father the moment he returned from the king's palace with a terrible decree. Lord Sterling tried to explain that Elinor was destined for the arcane tower and couldn't marry Duke Cedric. Instead, the father offers his younger daughter, Orlia, to take her place and marry the Duke. The Lord was terrified, but had to obey the king's word, leaving poor Orlia in a state of shock. She felt completely unloved, unable to understand why her father wouldn't protect her from this forced marriage. The weight of the situation didn't hit her until she met the king. Later, she tells Cedric her plan. She sent a secret letter asking her father to meet her in the remote village of Blackwood to stay hidden. Now pay attention here. The Duke suggests a fake patrol trip to bless the commoners as a cover for their journey. He warns her that the eastern marches are a wasteland, but Orlia tells him to simply trust his wife. That night, Cedric wonders if he is wrong, hoping his wife will not suffer the same fate as that person. All he wants is to keep her safe, but the thought of the barren eastern lands deeply worries him. Then he finds letters between her and Lady Beatrice about soil research and realizes Orlia's hidden dedication. Maybe he misjudged her. She is actually a woman who will stand by his side through the greatest of storms. He decides to reveal a secret to her if she stays firm once this patrol mission is finally over. The next morning, Jane asks who will guard the Duchess since the elite knights are still away on a raid. Jane and Rose wonder if the Duke himself will step up to be the one to protect her. Orlia quickly objects, believing that kind of romance is only for couples who actually get along, unlike them. Rose hands over the requested paperwork, while Orlia offers a small gift as a token of her thanks. Aurelia notices a strange mark on Rose's hand, but the maid pulls away and leaves in a hurry. A servant interrupts her thoughts, announcing the Duke is busy with preparations and won't be joining her for dinner. She notes that the Duke is running late once again, but her quiet night is about to take a turn. Suddenly, Cedric walks into the room while she's wearing a very sheer and provocative nightgown. She rushes to cover up, blushing furiously at how incredibly handsome the Duke looks in the candlelight. You and I both know they're falling for each other, even if they're too awkward to say it yet. They decide to sleep, and Cedric takes the sofa, but Aurelia is far too restless to drift off. When she gets up for water, Cedric insists on escorting her, reminding her of his cold past self. She wonders if the war changed him, because the man standing there is nothing like the monster she remembered. The next day, Aurelia doesn't care who guards her, until she spots Cedric waiting on his black stallion. He takes her hand, leads her to the carriage, and declares he will be her personal guard. Aurelia assumes it is only because the other knights are away, which means he had no other choice but to come. But Cedric stops her and kneels right there, promising to be her personal guard regardless of whether his knights were present or not. On the road, her heart begins to warm toward him, but she's still terrified of being hurt again. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Lady Isabella is already plotting her next move against the new Duchess. Their first stop is House Thornhurst, where the Baron treats Aurelia with absolutely zero respect or dignity. It is clear he's on Isabella's side. Inside, the Baron's daughter, Lillian, greets the Duke with a hungry, alluring gaze. This is all part of Isabella's plan to have Lillian seduce the Duke and destroy their marriage. If she succeeds, Lillian might just steal the title of Duchess for herself and throw Aurelia out. Later, Cedric asks how she slept, and his rare, genuine smile makes her blush all over again. She quickly changes the subject, and they head to the dining hall for their first official dinner. The Baron prepares a massive feast, but the real shock is Lillian appearing in a very revealing dress. Honestly, you and I are already tired of Lillian sitting right next to the Duke like that, aren't we? The Baron brags about Lillian's preparations, fishing for a compliment that the Duke simply refuses to give him. The room is tense, but Lillian pushes further, offering the Duke a pair of rare star fruits as a gift. These fruits are traditionally shared only by lovers, and Aurelia can feel her heart start to race as things heat up. All right, you and I are diving into a dinner where the Duke rejects the fruit, looking absolutely furious. The Baron shifts his target and begins to criticize Lady Amber, comparing her to his own daughter. The Duke has had enough, warning the Baron not to be rude before leading his wife away by the hand. Cedric apologizes for the Baron's behavior on his behalf and begs Amber not to hate his home here. Seeing him show emotion for once, she touches his face softly to reassure him that she is fine. She just wants him to know that everything is truly going to be okay. Back in her room, she blames Cedric's good looks for her bold actions while thinking of his past. Women have always chased him, but he never once entertained their advances, keeping his distance from them all. As she continues her stroll, she finds Cedric alone with Lydia and decides to confront them right then. Her blood boils seeing them together. Now watch closely, because things are about to get really tense. Lydia leaves, and while they talk privately, Cedric explains she was only reporting her own father's secret corruption. The truth is Lydia tried to seduce him and failed, so she reported her father to save face. She claimed her father ordered the seduction just to steal the Duchess title and take her position for their own. The air is finally cleared, but Amber refuses to admit that she was actually very upset. Her face turns bright red, which Cedric assumes is just from her low tolerance for the strong wine. Amber laughs as the tension finally breaks. Look at these two slowly falling in love right now. The next day, Amber corners Lydia to find out who is really behind this entire scheme. Lydia tries to cover her tracks by blaming her father for everything once again. Amber shows her a fake letter signed by Belladonna, and Lydia falls right into the clever trap they set. She confesses everything. Soon, Cedric warns that their patrol through the land will be difficult. Amber is ready for anything. She hands out aid to the locals and listens to their heavy, heartbreaking stories. She is gently healing the East, until they arrive at the desolate and barren house of 𝑭𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅. The land is completely dead. Not a single green leaf grows in this wasteland. The Viscount welcomes them warmly, but a little girl suddenly begs Amber to help her sick mother. Amber does her best to help the mother, but realizes her efforts are still falling quite short. You and I see the Duke's deep worry. He fears Amber will leave once she sees this ruin. Seeing the dark side of the East, he fears she will flee. The Viscount apologizes. He is alone without any help, since his wife died and his children have long since left. But he could never bring himself to leave the place he once shared during those beautiful years. He promised Magnus Talisto, the former Great Duke, that he would make this the kingdom's finest village. The Viscount recalls his meeting with the Duke before these lands began their rapid and tragic decline. The lush greenery vanished, leaving the East lifeless as nobles flee from the monsters and the famine. Petro cannot bring himself to abandon his home, hoping to see that magnificent, lush view once again. Amber realizes she is not the only one fighting for the East, as she finds fellow allies nearby. While she processes this discovery, the Duke continues to worry that she is disappointed by the ruin. He admits he never saw the East in its glory and hates the state it is in. He expects her to complain, but instead she offers brilliant suggestions to help the local people's medical care. The Duke is left speechless as she details her plans to restore the East's former beauty. He finally sees that Amber has no intention of ever leaving this land or his own side behind. The Duke vows to do everything for her. Later, they head to a secret meeting place. To her shock, she finds her father waiting there after they greet each other warmly. Amber asks the Duke for a private moment to speak with the father she never expected. She is stunned to find her sister Natasha, the greatest magician of this entire century. Amber recalls their youth, when her sister was blessed with magic but lacked all human emotion. Trust me, you and I are about to see how this violence made Amber a total outcast. She remembers being forced into this marriage in Beatrice's place, all because of her rare and powerful magical talent. Her father always favored her sister, leaving Amber resentful after years of being forced to step in for her. Beatrice acts as their father's guard, bluntly claiming the Eastern marches are a disaster and offering their hollow assistance. These words offer Amber zero comfort. If anything, her sister's sudden concern only makes her detest them both even more. She recalls those miserable years, realizing they had no intention of finding her until she finally reached out to them. With a weary voice, the Count claims he was too ashamed to contact her, while Beatrice offers a strange apology. Amber just sighs when her sister offers to let her hit her to feel better. She tells them to stop seeking forgiveness and just accept the weight of her rightful anger and pain. Now pay attention here. This is where the Count finally admits he was wrong to think he ever loved his daughters equally. He reveals his fear of the Emperor, whose knights attacked their fleet right after he rejected a marriage proposal for Beatrice. He confesses to being a coward for sacrificing her, yet despite his apologies, Amber remains cold and guarded for now. She understands his motives, but isn't ready to play the loving daughter again. This is just the closure she needs. Meanwhile, Lord Alistair is setting a barrier when Beatrice appears and shatters it instantly. He recognizes her immediately, knowing few sorcerers possess an aura powerful enough to crack his own massive energy. Before Beatrice can show off, Amber calls them inside, noticing how well her sister behaves around the cold Duke. It seems Beatrice wants to protect her sister in her own twisted way, while sizing up the legendary Duke. Inside, the Duke and Count Sterling exchange greetings, with Alistair surprisingly agreeing to drop all formal honorifics between them. They dive into their discussion, as her father presents a document that could change everything. The plan is to disguise themselves as members of a powerful trade guild to sell their weapons in secret. Baron Leopold will help forge the accounts, while Amber uses family letters to transfer payments without raising any imperial suspicion. As Amber explains the logistics, she interrupts the Duke to ask exactly what kind of weaponry his troops actually need. The Count is shocked to see the small army size, wondering just how powerful these knights are. They conclude the meeting with a shared hope that this dangerous gamble will bring peace to the marches. Amber thanks her father as they prepare to leave, though she notices they don't even have a carriage waiting. Beatrice suddenly shows off her incredible teleportation magic, leaving both of them impressed by her raw sorcery and skill. You saw that too, right? Beatrice realizes the Duke's aura is practically wrapped around Amber like a protective shield. Since an aura stays closest to the one its owner loves most, she knows Amber is safe with him. Their patrol continues smoothly for 3 more days, but while alone, Amber's mind begins to wander to the past. She wonders if life would be happier if she had never been forced into this marriage by the Emperor's command. These heavy questions linger as the party finally returns to the safety of the palace. After meeting her family, Amber feels a strange new tension whenever she is around her husband, Lord Alistair. Alistair enters her chambers and sits beside her, sensing the confusion and anxiety that her family's visit has caused. He encourages her to be honest about her feelings, and she finally admits how lonely the Eastern marches truly are. She confesses her regrets and the terror of being a pawn in the Emperor's cruel and calculated political games. Amber wonders what her life could have been if she wasn't a victim of this massive imperial conspiracy. Despite her pain, she plans to stay, knowing her fate is sealed. Then the Duke suddenly kneels. Firmly holding her hands, he promises that things will change, admitting he was once terrified of her leaving him. He realizes now that they can share this heavy burden together, hoping she will choose to stay by his side. Alistair vows to change and devote his entire life to her, promising to protect her until his very last breath. Don't misunderstand his feelings, Amber. Amber still fears betrayal, something Alistair fiercely opposes. So what do you and I make of this bond? All right, you and I are witnessing the finale of this epic tale. Alina sees Cedric's scars, but chooses to trust him, sharing a final kiss. Lord Cedric lays her upon the bed as Alina asks for assurance. He swears on his honor to be hers alone for all of eternity. He tells her she may command him as she pleases. Suddenly, Alina realizes that she has fallen deeper than she ever imagined. Now pay attention here. She is terrified of losing him. She finally admits that her soul has been longing for his love all this time. Take a breath, everyone, because we're diving into a past that'll break your heart. He recalls his mother's tragic weakness, how she clung to her husband even after discovering his constant betrayals and lies. Witnessing that infidelity made him believe marriage was nothing but a cold business contract, a miserable trap he'd eventually face. When he tried to call out his father's scandals, his own mother slapped him, begging her son to stay quiet. She desperately wanted to maintain the illusion of a perfect family, and he played that dutiful role his entire life. So when the royal marriage decree finally arrived, he expected nothing but a hollow arrangement with no love or warmth. But everything changes when he meets Annabelle, the woman who unexpectedly manages to capture his entire stone-cold heart. For the first time, Annabelle lets her guard down completely and spends a truly intimate night with her new husband. The next morning, she wakes up blushing furiously, replaying every moment of the night before. Talk about an unforgettable core memory. She gets ready and heads to the training grounds to find the Duke, where the loyal Sir Byron greets her. He informs her that Beatrice has received a mysterious letter, one they suspect was sent by the treacherous Baron Toram. When he asks about their secret patrol, she draws a firm line, telling him to simply trust her instead of questioning. He quickly apologizes and points her toward the Duke's private study, which she enters with a heavy heart and mind. Her mind races with thoughts of their shared future, and the moment she sees Alistair, she begins to imagine a life. The Duke greets her warmly, explaining that this study once belonged to his late biological mother, the Lady Liliana. She passed away years ago, and he asks his wife if she would like the room for herself, which she accepts. Their moment is cut short as the knights return, with Sir Julian reporting that their dangerous raid was a total success. They have secured the monster blood Annabelle requested, but seeing the couple so happy sends Beatrice into a jealous, blind fury. Now watch this, because Beatrice is about to plan something truly hideous, and likely very petty as well. Meanwhile, Annabelle prepares a massive welcome-back banquet for the weary knights, choosing the prestigious Great Hall for the event. Even in her past life, this hall was for the soldiers, but Beatrice always hijacked it for her own selfish parties. The knights always got the bare minimum, but then Peter arrives with a report that Beatrice wants to host the feast. He adds that Beatrice has ordered him to seize the keys, but Annabelle isn't about to let that happen again. With her maid Jane by her side, she marches straight into Beatrice's chambers to settle this power struggle once and for all. Annabelle bluntly refuses to hand over the keys, reminding the woman that she is now the true lady of this house. As they leave, Jane apologizes for being unable to help, knowing her low status prevents her from speaking up against nobility. You and I can see it. Annabelle needs a proper lady-in-waiting, and she needs one fast. Duke Alastair soon arrives, telling her not to overwork herself, while she asks if their land was once an independent kingdom. He confirms it was the White Kingdom before the Empire absorbed them, though their ancient, proud traditions still remain today. Since they are on the subject, he presents her with a stunning traditional dress that his mother once wore proudly. He hopes she will wear it to the upcoming banquet, honoring the legacy of his family and their lost, ancient kingdom. Annabelle loves the gown, but doubts she can pull it off, though the Duke insists she would look stunning in anything. His praise makes her blush, while elsewhere, the maids receive an order from Beatrice to buy expensive, luxury goods. They have no funds for such things, yet news spreads that the House of Talisto is planning a lavish feast. The villagers worry, knowing the duchy's financial state makes such a grand, expensive celebration seem like an impossible, reckless dream. Even the maids hear the rumors, but they mistakenly assume this wasteful spending is just more of Beatrice's selfish doing. Suddenly, Annabelle arrives and asks the head maid about the orders, who reveals the desperate petitions from the local citizens. She fears these reckless costs will ruin the House of Talisto's reputation and leave their entire financial future in grave danger. Annabelle admits she cannot protect everyone alone, but she promises that if they stand with her, they will not lose. Beatrice waits for the carriage full of luxury goods to arrive, but she is met with a very different surprise. Annabelle appears instead, coolly informing her that every single wasteful purchase has been cancelled. Honestly, Beatrice is just the worst. The head maid agrees to follow the new orders, redirecting all that squandered gold toward actual food for the banquet. Annabelle shows Beatrice the public petitions begging the palace to stop its heartless ways and consider the people for once. Beatrice starts a screaming match, but Annabelle is ready with cold hard evidence of how she misused the castle's funds. Sir Julian steps forward to support her. Trust me, you and I are going to love seeing justice finally being served. All right, let us dive into a story of power, noble blood, and a duchess who takes no prisoners. Lord Alastair pledges his blade and his knights to Amber, following her lead as she reshapes the defenses of their duchy. Amber claims her rightful place as the mistress of the castle, demanding the household keys from Beatrice with absolute iron authority. Defeated and shamed, Beatrice throws the keys aside as the castle prepares for a massive celebration the very next day. The Duke and Duchess grace the Great Hall as a grand toast begins. Amidst the cheering, Sir Julian approaches them both. He thanks Amber for providing his family with vital aid and the finest weaponry, swearing his eternal loyalty to her house. With her place in the family finally secured, Amber is beaming. Later, the couple reviews an urgent letter from Master Lawrence. Amber predicted the research would hit a wall, knowing that beast blood was the only missing ingredient for their alchemical project. She already sent the shipment to Lawrence, But 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 soon connects the dots about her secret dealings with the local lords. He gets a bit shy, asking her to keep him in the loop about her brilliant schemes in the near future. He admits he felt a bit left out and just wants to support her in every way possible, truly the perfect husband. And then he leans in for a kiss. "Wait, did you and I just see that? No, hang on a second." He stops himself, remembering she isn't comfortable with that yet. He leaves our leading lady completely stunned and wanting more instead. He settles for a forehead kiss. The next morning, the knights receive their new steel. They are ecstatic, but while 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 receives a blade from his father, Amber feels something much more legendary is missing here. She leaves the Duke with his men to meet Leopold, who has arrived with the fabled Durendal sword hidden in his gear. Leopold is anxious to know if his legal troubles with Count Sterling have been settled, and Amber gives him the good news. He is stunned that his merchant ships can sail freely again, no longer blocked from passing through the greedy Count's territory. Amber negotiated a clever deal with the Count, agreeing to act as the official chaperone for his young niece, Cecilia. Count Sterling wants to marry Cecilia into a powerful family, and he knows that having a Duchess as a mentor is invaluable. A prestigious chaperone will skyrocket the girl's social standing, making her the most eligible bachelorette in all of the Western lands. Leopold worries that might not be enough, but Amber has already promised to introduce the girl to the capital's highest circles. Just as Leopold thinks they are finished, Amber orders him to personally apologize to the Count's niece. He has no choice but to follow her to the Sterling estate, dreading the encounter with the young lady he once offended. When they arrive, Cecilia introduces herself with perfect grace, and Amber is struck by how poised and refined the girl appears. The Count brags about her like a prize horse, mentioning she even decorated the massive reception hall with her own 2 hands. Amber is genuinely impressed, making Cecilia blush from the rare praise. Now, pay attention here, because this is where Cecilia proves she is not your average noble girl. Instead of acting shy, she shoots Leopold a look of pure disgust, demanding he repeat his previous vulgar insults right now. Amber is shocked by her fire. Leopold tries to claim he was simply drunk and did not recognize her noble status then. Cecilia is furious, realizing he would have happily abused a common servant instead if it had not been a lady like her. She demands justice for his crimes, handing him a long list of every woman he has ever shamed or harmed in the past. She orders him to apologize to every single one and pay them gold for their pain. Amber watches in absolute, stunning awe. Amber expected a passive girl, but Cecilia is a lioness. She immediately backs her up, threatening to expose Leopold to his family. Knowing his life is on the line, Leopold agrees. They head to the drawing room to discuss the details of the chaperonage. While walking, Cecilia asks why Amber took her side. Amber simply says her demands were perfectly just and incredibly reasonable. Cecilia is touched, as no one has ever truly listened to her or validated her feelings in such a powerful way before. The deal is set. Cecilia will serve as Amber's lady-in-waiting before moving to a second mentor in the royal capital. Cecilia will serve as Amber's lady-in-waiting before moving to a second mentor in the royal capital. Rowena is the mother of the Empress herself, which is exactly why Count Sterling was so desperate to sign Amber's deal. The Count is baffled, asking how Amber convinced such a powerful woman to help, but Amber keeps her secrets well hidden. She simply tells him she has something the Duchess cannot refuse. As the day ends, the Count warns his niece to behave. He tells her to act with the utmost dignity while staying at Amber's manor, knowing their entire family's future is at stake. Cecilia just nods, her eyes fixed on Amber. She has finally found someone she can truly look up to in this world. And that's where we leave it for now. Trust me, you and I need to see what this duo does next. Bridge 1. All right, you and I are about to watch a Duchess finally get the powerhouse ally she truly needs. Back at the manor, Amber thanks Cecilia for her support earlier. Amber just keeps praising her ideas, which makes Cecilia blush. She blurs out that Amber is quite a unique lady, in a good way, which Amber accepts with a smile. The next day, they head toward 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 castle. Amber truly hopes that her new companion will enjoy living there. But Amber almost forgets that Cecilia isn't someone you can just push around. She won't be bullied by anyone. Lady Beatrice is in for a shock. Finally, we have someone strong enough to stand up to that wicked mother-in-law. 2 hours before they return, Beatrice is already grilling her informant about what happened during the trip. The spy in the shadows is none other than Rose. She reports that Amber visited Count Sterling and brought back a companion. This news shocks Beatrice and Grace. They know the Count's niece, Cecilia, has rejected every single royal invitation before this. They can't believe she accepted Amber's offer. As soon as the carriage pulls up, Cecilia helps the Duchess step down. Beatrice is the first one there to welcome them home. She immediately remarks that a Duchess shouldn't be wandering off. She claims she should have chosen the staff instead. She even uses Amber's young age as a weapon to taunt her. Bridge 2, watch this. Beatrice uses the age card to taunt her, but Cecilia senses the tension and steps in to help. Beatrice quickly shifts her focus, offering to introduce Cecilia to the most powerful and respected noblewomen in the entire Eastern realm. This puts Amber in a tough spot. Beatrice's offer could help Cecilia secure a marriage into a very prestigious, high-ranking family. Would she switch sides to join Beatrice? To everyone's absolute shock, Cecilia rejects the offer, choosing to serve only Amber. After that intense face-off, Amber retreats to her room, glowing. Suddenly, Lord Cedric bursts in, completely out of breath. Come on, man. Just admit that you missed her already. He doesn't actually have anything important to say. He mentions the winter blossoms and says they reminded him of her. Our Duke is trying his best to be romantic. Amber is totally oblivious. She just gazes out the window at the falling snow, completely missing his sweet gesture. Cedric stares at her tenderly, whispering that her pale skin looks just like the delicate snowflakes. That was surprisingly smooth. Amber blushes hard. Who knew Cedric could be so poetic? The tension in the room is getting seriously thick right now. But Amber's guard is still up. She's worried his feelings might change, so she quickly shifts the topic to Cecilia. Cedric says he trusts her judgment. However, Amber misinterprets this, thinking he simply doesn't care about her decisions. He clarifies that he isn't setting boundaries. He genuinely trusts her because of everything he has seen her accomplish. Amber feels a huge wave of relief. While she's still not sure about his romantic feelings, she knows they can rely on each other. Bridge 3, you and I can see they're building real trust, even if feelings are unclear. She heads to find Cecilia now. She finds Cecilia and thanks her for standing up to Lady Beatrice. It's clear this makes the girl very happy. But Amber warns Cecilia not to do it again, which completely startles her. Amber explains the situation is temporary. Amber explains that she only needs her to serve as a lady-in-waiting for a few short months. After that, she'll be living in the capital. Amber doesn't want her getting caught up in the messy family drama. She tells her to prioritize her own debut in society. But looking at Cecilia's face, Amber can tell something is wrong. Cecilia asks if Amber truly believes that marrying a powerful nobleman is the only way for a woman to find fulfillment. She explains that her struggling family needs the Count's sponsorship to survive. She hates that her uncle is using her. He's training her for a debut just to marry her off like a prize. She stays silent because they need the money. Amber finally realizes that Cecilia never wanted to marry. Cecilia admits that moving to the capital was actually a good idea. She wants to meet more people, but going there just to be sold as a bride makes her feel like an object. Amber advises her to start making her own choices. She needs to live a life that she won't regret. Don't let fear hold you back. Amber tells her that no matter what she decides, she will always have her back. She is her official chaperone, after all, and she's the best. Cecilia thanks her, feeling more determined than ever. She's ready to experience the world. She promises to do her absolute best as Amber's loyal lady-in-waiting. Later, Grace corners Cecilia, warning her that the Duchess won't be able to protect her for long. Unlike Beatrice, Cecilia just gives her a cold stare. She warns her never to speak ill of the Duchess, or she'll use force. Grace shudders in pure terror. The story spreads among the maids, and Jane eventually rushes to tell Amber everything. Bridge 4, trust me, you and I are going to love seeing this bond grow. Amber calls Cedric to watch the snow. Stick with me. Arthur can only think about how Alina called him by his name, which she admits happened purely and subconsciously. Arthur cannot help but blush because the way she says his name makes his heart feel like it might explode. Alina wonders where she can find a man like him before heading into the library of the late Duchess. Deep in the library of the late Duchess, Alina stumbles upon a personal diary that belonged to the previous lady. Alina gets curious and discovers her own situation is no different from what Arthur's mother had to endure before. From arriving in a strange place to how she wants love and thinks a child could make them a family. Alina reads a strange page about maids offering tea as a gift from her husband that steeps a pretty red. Now pay attention. Beatrice interrupts her by saying the dowager lady is looking for her immediately. When Alina arrives at the chambers, Beatrice complains about how difficult it has been to meet her daughter-in-law. Alina offers a formal apology while wondering what this evil woman is planning as Beatrice sends Catherine away. Catherine refuses to leave because she only takes orders from Alina, which clearly makes the dowager lady quite furious. Beatrice tries to stay cool, saying their discussion is not for a lady in waiting to hear in the room. But smart little Catherine points out that if she must go then, Grace will have to leave the room too. Alina cuts them off and asks what important matter they actually need to discuss with her right now. Beatrice prepares some snacks and offers to help her host a grand social tea party for the local nobility. She claims Alina has been the Duchess for a while, but never hosted a party, making nobles distrust her. Beatrice adds that, as a foreigner, Alina needs her aid, but Alina knows she can never trust this woman. Alina says it is none of her concern, so Beatrice grabs her wrist with a very sharp warning. She implies no one will attend if Alina hosts alone, proving she is not welcome without Beatrice's support. However, our girl has no intention of falling for this trap and refuses to be a timid bride. She tells her she will not be the meek daughter Beatrice expects, so the dowager finally loses her cool. Beatrice orders Grace out, so Catherine leaves too, then warns Alina that Arthur's affection won't last forever. She claims all men are the same, which is some pretty dark relationship advice from a bitter mistress. Alina disagrees and says Arthur is different, standing up for her husband and herself in this round. You and I both know this is a low blow. Beatrice laughs and says love requires equals. She degrades Alina as a common viscount's daughter, while Arthur is a high-ranking duke of the kingdom. She shares her own story about how her husband once vowed to give her power in the eastern province. He gave all the authority to Arthur, instead leaving her with nothing but maids to scold at home. She asks if Arthur made any promises to Alina, but Alina refuses to give her an answer. Beatrice calls promises a red flag and tells her not to give Arthur her heart so easily. Alina feels shaken, so she stands up and says she will handle the tea party on her own. After she leaves, Beatrice and Grace talk about how they expect Alina to fail so their plan works. They are planning something massive this time, while Alina and her staff discuss how to watch Beatrice closely. Alina, Jane, and Catherine realize it will be hard to track Beatrice since she likely has allies. Jane suggests asking Sir Bertram for help, but Catherine thinks asking the Duke is a much better idea. Alina is not sure if she should ask Arthur for help despite Catherine's faith in the Duke's feelings. Jane agrees because she has seen how much the Duke cares and would do anything for Alina. Jane believes Arthur will go to any length for her, but Alina's past taught her never to expect anything from him. Her past taught her never to expect anything from Arthur, as he always chose family, but seeing him now makes her waver. She remembers Beatrice's words about love being fleeting and wants Arthur to give her some real assurance. Before anything else, she finds herself truly hoping that Arthur actually loves her for who she is. Her thoughts are broken when Catherine asks for the job of keeping a close eye on Beatrice. Catherine already understands Beatrice's schemes, which impresses Alina as they continue their discussion about the manor. Catherine wonders why the other lady-in-waiting is not here, so Alina says she will brief Rose later. And that is where we leave Alina and her staff as they prepare for a party that will change everything. All right, you and I are about to see how a simple tea party turns into a deadly game of chess. This is the calm before the storm. Cecilia catches the maid Grace handling a poisonous plant called red grass. When the report reaches Lady Amber, she nearly collapses as the terrifying truth about the herbs finally sets in. That vile woman, how long have Bella and her cohorts been doing this? The day of the gala arrives. Amber is thrilled to see the manor is spotless, and every noble lady invited has already made their appearance. Only 3 are missing. Of course, the late arrivals are Bella's loyal friends, Viscountess Fabian, Countess Gur, and Countess Lino. The trio tries to mock Amber immediately, but her perfect hosting makes it impossible for them to find a flaw. Take that, our girl is ready. Amber introduces Cecilia as her lady-in-waiting before attending to her other noble duties. Before the festivities officially begin, Bella suddenly crashes the party and forces her way into the circle of guests. But our unbothered queen just welcomes her with a radiant smile. Nothing is going to ruin her day, or so it seems. Cecilia seats the intruder, and Amber notices Grace is missing. Last night, she researched the true power of red grass. Steeped in tea, it turns deep crimson with a foul stench, causing dizziness and a total numbing of the senses. Long-term use leads to a painful death. Amber's blood runs cold as she remembers drinking this tea in her past life. She was pregnant back then, and it was Bella who served it. I knew that woman was absolutely out of her mind. To make matters worse, she found records of the same poison in the old diaries of the Baroness's mother. Amber officially opens the gala by serving the rare gold leaf tea specifically ordered by the Lord Larret himself. The guests are stunned by the luxury, but Amber keeps a sharp eye on Bella, who is being uncharacteristically quiet. Now watch closely. This is where the trap finally springs as Countess Lino suddenly collapses in the middle of the room. Bella screams that Amber is poisoning her friends. Amber suspects the trio planted the red grass on themselves to frame her. A search would be a social insult, but Countess Gur demands one anyway to prove their innocence to the crowd. If they are clean, Amber will lose everything. The sheer audacity of these noble snakes is just off the charts. Chaos erupts. Amber refuses to search her guests, but Bella keeps pushing, acting like she is certain of the outcome. Amber knows the evidence is gone. This is a staged play to humiliate her and destroy her standing in high society. The physician arrives to treat Countess Lino. The Countess looks terrified when she sees how serious the doctor's face is. Amber realizes the trio didn't actually know the tea could kill them. They were just pawns in Bella's deadly game. Suddenly, Viscountess Fabian points a finger at Roxy, Amber's maid, accusing her of tampering with the silver teapot. Bella exclaims that this was Amber's scheme all along. She demands a full-body search on Roxy to find the evidence. She knows Roxy has a hidden vial of red grass. This woman is truly vile. How can anyone be so nasty? While Roxy trembles on her knees, Amber whispers that she already knows the girl has been acting as Bella's spy. Amber tries to get her to confess, but Bella takes charge and performs the body search herself before anyone can stop her. They find the vial. Bella immediately scolds Amber for playing such lethal pranks that could actually end someone's life. The room descends into madness once the doctor confirms the tea is a slow-acting poison that eventually leads to the grave. Everyone is reeling from the shock. Well, that is what happens when you follow the wrong leader. Use your common sense. You and I both saw that coming, but Amber has one more card to play by asking how Bella knew it was lethal. That information is a secret. Suddenly, the tables turn and Bella is the one looking like a prime suspect. Bella tries to force Roxy to lie, threatening her under her breath, but the maid has finally reached her breaking point. Roxy breaks free from the cage of fear and exposes the truth. Go on, girl. Stand up to that bully. She reveals that Bella was the one who provided the red grass to frame the three friends. The scheme is exposed. Bella tries to laugh it off, but the women who drank the tea are now terrified and start confessing everything. The panicked ladies immediately beg the doctor for an antidote to save them from their own foolish mistake. Bella retreats in absolute defeat and silent rage. Yes, run away. You just lost this round in front of everyone. After the party, 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 tearfully apologizes for her betrayal, but Amber thanks her for choosing the truth when it mattered most. A grateful 𝒂𝒂𝒄𝒅 vows her eternal loyalty. Meanwhile, a furious Bella beats a servant just to vent her pathetic anger. That old woman just doesn't know when to quit. She swears to destroy Amber with every ounce of power she has left. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you won't want to miss what our Queen Amber does next. All right, you and I are about to see a noble lady finally face the consequences of her cruelty. Rosalind found a letter from her friend Lillian at the Ivy Parlor, claiming she was hiding at the warehouse and needed help. Fearing Beatrice whipped the girl, Rosalind pleads with Lady Alara for help, and the two rush straight to the warehouse. They find Lillian battered. While Cecilia hunts for a doctor, Alara tries to stop the bleeding and tend to her wounds. Lillian cries out an apology, making Alara realize it's a trap, but the villains are already here and closing in. Beatrice arrives with a mob of goons, seizing Lady Alara while knocking Rosalind out cold. Things just got very dangerous. The wicked woman brandishes her whip, aiming to break Alara's spirit with a terrifying and calculated warning strike. Laughing, she prepares to strike again, but our brave Lady Alara refuses to back down or show any weakness. Alara reaches for a tool but falls, allowing Beatrice to cruelly stomp on her foot with absolute delight. The villain sneers at Alara's struggle. Trust me, we all want to see this monster get exactly what she deserves. Just as the whip is about to fall, the doors burst open. Look who finally arrived to save the day. Alaric is here. With a murderous glare, he seizes Beatrice for daring to lay hands on his wife. Beatrice stammers that it was all a misunderstanding. She was just trying to give the girl a little scare. You can't lie when you're caught red-handed with a weapon. Alaric isn't listening to any more of her nonsense. He orders his men to throw her in the North Tower and carries Alara away from that dark warehouse. Beatrice screams for the elder Duke, but Alaric warns her that no one can protect her from his wrath now. In the safety of their room, Alaric bandages her wounds, asking if she has suffered through this before. Alara confirms it. Alaric is crushed by guilt, but she reminds him that he saved her life this time. His choice to marry her changed their destiny. Overwhelmed, Alaric vows she will never be hurt again under his watch. The Duke finally opens up to her, sharing the tragic and miserable history of his late mother, Lady Liliana. His mother died unloved, leaving him with only the duty to remain a kind and noble heir. When a new Duchess took her place, he didn't fight back. Instead, he focused solely on saving the eastern marches. But monster raids and his father's coldness made everything worse. The land was dying, and he felt completely hopeless. In that dark time, he never expected a woman like Alara to actually stand by his side and lead. He watched her restore the land, terrified that she would eventually realize he wasn't worthy and leave him. He begs her to stay. Alara realizes they were both just lonely and inexperienced souls trying to survive. She promises to stay forever. Alaric moves in for a kiss but hesitates at the very last second. Alara pulls him close, and the two finally share a moment of true, passionate connection that they both needed. You and I both know the drama isn't over. The next morning brings a brand new threat to the castle. Sir Henry intercepts a letter from Beatrice. Alaric takes charge, bringing breakfast to Alara's bedside himself to check on her. Seeing her awake and disheveled, the Duke struggles to control his desires. He is definitely still hungry for her. He helps Alara to the table because her legs are weak, and yeah, we all know why. Wink, wink. Alara tries to rush back to her duties, but Alaric stops her, insisting she take a much-needed rest. She agrees to only light tasks, So Alaric decides he's going to spend the whole day shadowing her. For the next few days, the Duke follows her everywhere like a giant, devoted and protective puppy. Elsewhere, Sir Baron prepares a secret document. It's clear he's far more than a simple knight in this kingdom. Beatrice is fuming. It's been a week, and the elder Duke hasn't replied to her desperate letters for help. She sends her maid to the villa personally. Meanwhile, Alara is wrestling with a massive secret about the past. She wonders if she should tell Alaric the truth about the suspicious circumstances surrounding his mother's tragic death. Alaric joins her in the library, growing sentimental as they sit together on the old velvet couch. Seeing his openness, Alara decides it's finally time to show him the truth within his mother's diary. She weighs the cost of telling Alaric the truth about his mother as he enters the quiet library. He asks why she hasn't returned to their chambers, and they settle onto the velvet couch together. Looking around, Alaric grows sentimental, thanking her for breathing new life into his mother's old study. Trust me, seeing his vulnerability makes Alara realize it's time to show him Liliana's secret diary. He reads it, and when he reaches the part about red tea, he freezes. Amber suspects the grass. Realizing his mother's death wasn't natural, Carlton is furious. She was so happy to drink that tea. She thought it was a gift from his father. Poor woman. Amber decides to launch a full investigation. Amber consoles him with a hug and promises to reveal the truth. Trust me, they're the ultimate power couple. The next day, Amber plans her move against Bella. 10 years have passed, making evidence hard to find. It seems unlikely they'll find proof now, but then Sir Baron arrives. He is ready to reveal everything. At the training grounds, Hindley urgently calls Carlton back to the manor. Something important is happening inside. When he arrives, his father is there. Amber also joins them and comes face to face with Duke Devon. Suddenly, Bella arrives with a shameless smile. It's disgusting how she enthusiastically greets the Duke. Carlton is enraged to see her free and orders her back, but Devon stops him, admitting he released her. Even though he knows the truth, Devon brushes it off. He only cares that Amber wasn't actually hurt. He gives Bella a light scolding, but otherwise he lets her off. These two honestly deserve each other. When Devon claims to protect his people, Carlton sneers. He brings up the way Devon treated his mother. The Duke blames her weak body, triggering Carlton's rage. He finally exposes their suspicions about the poisoning. Bella denies it all and demands proof. Amber interjects, stating they have both evidence and a key witness. Sir Baron enters the hall, finally revealing his true identity as Dennis Benheim, the noble heir. Stick with me here, because this reveal changes everything. Dennis is actually Liliana's cousin, and we are shocked. Dennis and his mother were treated poorly due to their status, with the sole exception of Lady Liliana. After her death, Dennis and Liliana's father investigated in secret. They finally tracked down the tea-serving maid. Even though she was tortured and her tongue was cut out, she was still able to write her testimony. Reading the maid's statement, Devon is shocked. Bella tries to deny it, but Amber brings out more proof. She shows trade records bearing Bella's seal. These documents detail every illegal transaction for the deadly red grass. With the truth revealed, Duke Devon is finally angered. Bella tries to reason with him, but Carlton interrupts. He declares he will hold a noble trial against her. He doesn't care if it attracts the Emperor's attention. Amber is ready to proceed. Cutting Bella out is the first step toward finally protecting the East. What a relief. We're finally going to be rid of her. The trial finally proves her guilty. Bella is sentenced to exile, and we can finally say goodbye to this awful creature. Justice is served. After the trial, Dennis apologizes for the secrecy. He asks to be treated normally, despite being Carlton's uncle. Devon also offers an apology. He hated the East because of his parents' suffering and eventually gave up. He ignored Liliana's help and let the land rot. When she died, he used Bella as an excuse. He wanted to pass his title to Carlton, but Bella made the East even more derelict than before. His excuses are pathetic, honestly. Carlton states he's different and will protect the land with his wife. He is the ideal man, isn't he? You and I are going to want a Carlton of our own. That night, Carlton regrets not knowing sooner. He promises to face every future challenge head-on with Amber. Meanwhile, Count Norton discusses House Thorn. He wonders where they got weapons without any recent trade deals. He suspects Amber is the key. He orders his knights to investigate and watch the Duchess very closely. This is another obstacle for our couple. In a shabby shack, Baron Leopold finds his final trump card. He knows the Count won't forgive him for helping Carlton, but a dark figure is already waiting outside. Days later, Count Norton visits the castle while Carlton is away. He demands to know about the grain. Amber is cautious. She can't let him find out she's been trading with her own family, the Riots. She tells the Count to stop sending proposals. She will use her own money to find a new supplier. We stand a rich queen. Let's listen to that money talk. Count Norton tries to mock her fortune. He says her dowry won't last forever, but pay attention because Amber has a few more tricks ready. She stares him down with absolute confidence. The power dynamic in this room has shifted completely. He mocks her fortune, but you and I know this queen is just getting started. Stay tuned. Let's dive into Amber's genius plan to save House Talisto from complete financial ruin. She tells her sister that the Radcliffe family will hire their knights as a clever cover. Though they must serve as soldiers, the knights agree to do it for the East. Count Nesto calls her words treason, trying to corner her, but Amber easily evades him. You can't outsmart her. She's far too clever for his pathetic little mind games here. Nesto laughs and warns that the Emperor can do more than just restrict their trade. He hints at a suicide mission before leaving her with a heavy, cold warning. Honestly, this man is just another monster they'll eventually have to face. That evening, Nesto orders his knights to eliminate Baron Leopold for helping House Talisto. 𝒂𝒆 finally arrives and rushes straight to Amber because he's clearly head over heels. Sir Jate reveals that 𝒂𝒆 didn't even change his travel clothes before running to her. You and I can see he was absolutely desperate to make sure she was safe. After he leaves, Amber worries about the impending war against the Kingdom of Kale. She vows to go to the capital with him, refusing to let him leave alone. Amber wonders why 𝒂𝒆 was so cold in her past. Perhaps the war broke him. She's terrified the change will happen again and seeks a way to shield his heart. She simply cannot lose him. She wants to keep his smile alive forever. I love how these two are finally starting to show their true feelings. Sir Benheim tries to find Baron Leopold on Amber's orders, but finds only a body. However, he discovers a mysterious bag left beside the corpse in the ditch. At the capital, Nesto reports to the Emperor, who prepares to move against Talisto. Now, pay attention here, because even Nesto wonders why the Emperor hates them so much. He crosses paths with the Crown Prince, yet another shady player enters the game. Back east, 𝒂𝒆 receives an urgent summons to the capital from the Emperor himself. Amber arrives at the townhouse with Cecilia, immediately sensing a strange, heavy atmosphere inside. The head maid, Neria, approaches and begins showing her around the sprawling mansion grounds. Amber realizes the staff are terrified of her, likely due to rumors from the capital. She praises their hard work to ease their nerves while sitting down for tea. Amber reminds Cecilia they are here to meet her second chaperone, Duchess 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅. The Duchess's family supports Empress Jan and the fifth prince against the Crown Prince's faction. Politics is such a messy game. Later that afternoon, Amber explores the mansion and spots a mysterious blonde man in the garden. This is her first time actually stepping foot into the garden since arriving here. She takes a peaceful stroll until a sudden rustle in the bushes startles her. A gentle voice reassures her that he means no harm to her at all. A stunning man with golden hair and kind green eyes steps into the light. He looks like he walked straight out of a dream, absolutely breathtaking. If she weren't married, he'd be the perfect candidate. Before they can speak, 𝒂𝒆 calls out and the stranger vanishes back into hiding. He promises they'll meet again soon for a proper, formal introduction. Back inside, Amber and 𝒂𝒆 discuss the Emperor's impossible demands for their future. Seeing her hesitation, the Duke promises he'll always listen to whatever she says. This gives her the courage to fight for the East and protect their home. The next day, Amber and Cecilia arrive at the massive, beautiful 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 mansion. Trust me, you and I need to see if this Duchess is an ally or a foe. Stick with me. We are about to watch 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 outsmart the most powerful Duchess in the entire kingdom. Cecily is ushered out of the room as the two noblewomen take their seats, facing one another across a table of secrets. The Duchess of Ravenscroft begins by demanding to know what 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 has found out about her grandson, the fifth prince. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 uses every ounce of knowledge from her past life, identifying his mysterious symptoms and the source of his suffering. She calls it moon blight, even naming the cure, but to hide her foresight, she credits her genius sister, Natalie Sterling. She claims the information was shared among top mages before reaching her, making the lie sound perfectly believable to everyone. The Duchess is visibly shaken and doubtful of such claims, finding it nearly impossible to believe a stranger has the answers. But 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 came prepared, revealing a rare medicinal herb that actually has the power to heal the prince's terminal illness. You and I both know she is the queen of preparation, leaving the stunned Duchess absolutely speechless in this moment. Suddenly, a shadow falls across the room as the handsome man from the garden appears out of nowhere. He has been eavesdropping on them, yet the Duchess does not seem surprised at all by his appearance. The man asks if he can truly trust her with his life, finally revealing his royal identity as the prince. He looks every bit the royal heir 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 met back in the safety of the house Thorn Gardens. The prince gives her a subtle look, signaling her to keep their previous meeting secret. They quickly switch to formal greetings, acting as if they are complete strangers meeting for the very first time. Okay, I know what you are thinking. This prince is definitely hiding a secret behind that charming royal smile. It turns out 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒚 is the 15th person to offer a cure, yet the prince seems to trust her implicitly. He has high hopes because she actually knows the name of the disease. Since no one else knows the secret, 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 confidently takes full responsibility for the treatment's outcome. After the meeting ends, 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 prepares to leave, having finally secured her standing within the noble court. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 leaves Cecily at the estate after a tearful goodbye, then spots her husband waiting nearby. Lord Alistair has been waiting the entire time, looking like a loyal knight eager for his lady's return to him. They share a quiet walk through the gardens, but they must soon brace themselves to face the Emperor himself. Inside the palace, 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 shudders as memories of her execution in a past life at the Emperor's command flood back. Luckily, Alistair is there to support her, proving that he is exactly the kind of husband every woman dreams of. The Emperor greets them coldly and immediately begins complaining about how the kingdom of 𝒂𝒓𝒚 has become a problem. He mentions an old trade agreement from the previous reign that led to an unimaginable disaster for the imperial treasury. The neighboring kingdom has stopped providing mana crystals, completely monopolizing a vital source of magic that the empire desperately needs. It is clear that this man is simply searching for any excuse to spark a bloody war with his neighbors. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 knows this will put House Thorn in grave danger as the emperor's greed finally begins to show its face. The kingdom of 𝒂𝒓𝒚 must surrender their crystals, while the empire seizes a massive portion of their lands. This war will not be easy, and the emperor's demands are far beyond anything considered reasonable. On the carriage ride home, Alistair confesses his fear that he might not survive the coming conflict on the front lines. He tries to hide his anxiety from 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚, but she notices immediately and gently squeezes his hand in silent support. She tells him that she has a special surprise waiting for him once they return to the safety of home. Back at the mansion, the ancient artifact that once ended 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚's life is gifted to Alistair as a powerful weapon. The trade with Baron Thornberry was finalized, and Alistair expresses his deep gratitude for such a formidable and rare blade. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒚 is stunned when the sword undergoes a sudden transformation, turning a crystal-clear blue as soon as Alistair grips it. The weapon has never behaved like this before, making Alara wonder what other secrets this magical blade might be hiding. War preparations begin without any delay, leaving Alara with nothing to do but wait and hope. Alara struggles to stay positive as the weight of the impending conflict and its impact begins to sink in. Alistair draws her close, promising that he will return to her side, unharmed, once the war is over. He vows to return unscathed, as Alara watches her knight prepare for the long journey ahead. The next morning, the Duke finally sets out for war, kissing Alara's hand before he departs from the estate. Alara collapses, and you and I are left hoping she is not about to face this nightmare alone again. All right, you and I are about to see our Duchess collapse as the weight of the crown hits. Jane rushes to Isabella as she lies unconscious. Stay strong, Your Grace. Alistair will return to your side. Isabella spends 3 days in a deep slumber, the crushing weight of their separation finally taking its toll. She finally wakes, realizing her husband's departure hit harder than expected. Even in her memories, she was always waiting. This time, she wants a different fate. Instead of idling, she roams the capital providing aid and hope. She begs a god she barely believes in to bring Alistair home safely. It is far too early for us. To lose her love, I mean. Isabella corrects herself, though anxiety still fills the walls of her mansion. A whole year passes under the shadow of war, until she finally receives another letter from her beloved. Now pay attention here, because the news in this letter is enough to make anyone lose hope. Trust your husband, Isabella. He will return. Suddenly, Lady Laura barges into the library to share incredible news. She can't contain her excitement. The crossbred seed is finally and successfully sprouting in the greenhouse. Such excellent news. Tides are turning for the better, and we hope it stays that way for Isabella. Tears fill Isabella's eyes. The East March's greatest struggle is over. They can finally cultivate their own grain. Far away, amidst the freezing winter, Alistair receives her message. Her promise of a transformed land fuels him. He is determined to triumph in this war no matter what. Yes, returning to a lovely wife is necessary. Brimming with new courage, Isabella cuts her hair short to symbolize her resilience. A new look for her. New hair, new woman. She rushes to meet Alistair upon hearing the news that the knights have returned. Jane tells her the Duke is home. After a year apart, the star-crossed lovers are finally reunited. They share the most heartfelt moment as they embrace, forgetting the long time they spent without each other. You and I can only imagine the yearning they felt, but this power couple is finally back together. Indoors, Isabella notices a strange contrast. In the past, Alistair was always covered in scars, even his face. This time he is nearly unblemished, a stark difference. Yet, even with scars, he would be as dashing as ever. Maybe I am just a fool for his charms, but can you blame me? He seeks a reward. From Isabella, one kiss is not enough. He desires more. Isabella admits that waiting was equally challenging. Their night becomes intimate, the first in over a year. By dawn, they have bared their hearts completely. It is so romantic. It makes these cold nights feel very lonely. But the peace is soon broken. Nightmares of the bloody trenches wake Alistair in a panic. Isabella holds him close when he is disturbed. It is good she is there to soothe his trauma. The next morning, they enjoy breakfast with local grain. The knights suggest visiting the fields themselves, stunned by the miraculous outcome Isabella achieved in the East Marches. Sir James becomes emotional seeing the thriving crops. Alistair watches with pride, knowing this success is hers. He is so grateful for Isabella's role. Returning to the mansion, the couple shares another private moment. This time they are in the bathroom tub. Whoa, calm down you two. They really cannot get enough. Alistair holds her close. He is reminded of her warmth whenever he used the sword she gave him. He continues to spoil her, concluding that no steel in the world could ever match the heat of her. Yes, we understand you are in love. Just admit it already. They share a stress-free moment together. Isabella and Alistair relax in the study. He is so clingy, wanting to be wherever she goes. Their passionate kiss is cut short after butler Hans tells them that there is a guest waiting outside. She has to push him off. They were caught in a naughty position. How embarrassing for our Duchess. We understand you cannot keep away from each other. The guest in question is the fifth prince. Alistair meets him for the first time. He kneels formally to greet the prince and introduce himself. The prince shares a secret. For years, he suffered nightmares of the emperor piercing a sword through him. Because of Isabella's help, those nightmares finally stopped. He expresses his desire to seize the royal throne. He asks House Valerius for their support. They both agree. Meanwhile, Lady Laura makes a massive discovery. In her laboratory, she finds something strange in the soil analysis. The poison in the plants is suspicious. She rushes to notify Isabella. "Trust me, you and I are going to want to see this." "All right, stick with me, because Our Lady 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 is facing a mystery. The knights report that monster numbers are dropping. The beasts are also acting far more passive than before. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 cannot recall this happening in her previous 75 memories. Despite the eerie silence, we still have dangers to face ourselves." While talking to a knight, 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚's face suddenly lights up. Duke Alaric approaches her, their playful banter filling the air. After a flirtatious exchange, they head back into the manor. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 reflects on the shifting circumstances and her growing bond with Alaric. Later, Lady Laurel rushes in with urgent news. She greets the Duke and 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚, then explains the components. The plant's poison does not seem to have formed naturally. This suggests that the toxin was artificially created. Who would do that? 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 takes a sample for the capital. She tells Laurel to keep the matter between them for now. That night, Alaric and 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 discuss the man-made poison. Pay attention here, because the plot thickens. No one else wants to bring the House of Thorn down so desperately. It is obvious to them who did it. There is no other person who wants to bring the House of Thorn down. Honestly, it is plain to us as well. That despicable man is probably behind this entire sickening and dark plot. A few days later, they learn the Emperor is ignoring war reports. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 says this might be for the better. An invitation to Duchess Rosamund's ball looks like a perfect opportunity for 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 to finally introduce herself to the influential nobles. She is determined that everything must go perfectly. The next day at the Radcliffe townhouse, the couple is greeted. The two lovebirds meet Duchess Radcliffe herself. It is not yet time for the ball, but they are invited. They meet the fifth prince to express gratitude toward House Thorn before the ball begins. The prince wishes to keep his health secret. The prince plans to keep his recovery hidden for now. He does not want to show up at the ball tomorrow. He comments that he has been waiting to meet 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 for days. Hearing this makes Alaric flinch in sudden jealousy. Someone is clearly very easily possessive. The prince glances at his reaction with pure amusement and a mocking smile. "Stop making fun of him, my prince. Don't worry, Alaric, the prince belongs to us, so you have 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚. You saw that coming, right?" 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 retrieves a ledger containing trade records between Earl Northcroft and the Crown. She focuses on the day of Baron Lowell's murder. They managed to obtain records of the Earl's secret trades. Duchess Radcliffe entrusts the investigation to a reliable individual. Tomorrow, their plan to gather the Sovereign Guard aligns perfectly. Serafina, another key ally, plays a major role in all the unfolding events and the upcoming grand ball. Duchess Radcliffe and the prince keep this information confidential. On the night of the ball, 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 and Alaric receive plenty of attention from the curious guests. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚 expected this attention, especially since House Thorn is allied with Duchess Radcliffe. No one will look down on them anymore. You cannot underestimate House Thorn anymore. Next in line, the highlight of the evening finally takes the stage. Introduced as Dame Serafina, the spotlight falls on the young woman with a ponytail and knightly attire. Her demeanor radiates confidence and happiness as she walks. Holding 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚's hand, she warmly greets her close friend. She is a royal knight now, and we are so happy for her. Yes to serious girl power tonight. For hundreds of years, there has not been a female knight until now. Tonight marks Seraphina's official appointment ceremony. Go girl, she totally deserves this. Moments later, the two girls sit in a private area to talk. Seraphina tells 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 of how she became a royal knight. Marchioness 𝒂𝒄𝒅 filed a complaint when she found out. Seraphina flipped the son of House Dato when he tried to move on her. Apparently, he is a knight too. He works for the crown loyalists and Marchioness 𝒂𝒅. This almost sparks a dispute between the rival noble factions. Luckily, Grand Duke William, a friend of Radcliffe, steps in. He takes full responsibility for the brave Seraphina for now. She just had to pass the Royal Knight test, which she did easily. Seraphina also tells her some news. The Princess of Eloria and her delegation have been requesting to see the Emperor, but they are being heartlessly denied entry. How does the presence of the princess affect everything? The next day, 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 and Seraphina head out together. Seraphina reassures 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 of 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 safety as long as she is there. The carriage is led by the knight. They go and meet Morgana in a rather secluded place. She has just finished drawing a magic circle. 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 and Seraphina arrive, finding her claiming she was going to die of boredom while waiting for them. Morgana is so sassy. We love it. The two sisters are sitting in front of a magically induced fireplace. They are not supposed to let other mages know 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆𝒅 is there. Morgana could get kicked out for this. She flaunts that the magic circle cannot do anything to her anyway. Trust me, you'll want to see what's next. All right, you and I are about to see just how terrifyingly brilliant Lady Natasha can really be. Amber immediately seeks her sister's counsel. Natasha agrees to help, examining the rare blight plant to uncover the truth. She quickly identifies a synthetic poison. Amber also shares her knight's reports on the plummeting beast populations and erratic movements. The mage's sensors missed this entirely. Sensing there's more, Natasha pushes her sister to be completely honest about everything. Amber hesitates to reveal everything, but Natasha's sharp instincts tell her there's a deeper secret hidden beneath her words. Finally, Amber opens up. Natasha explains that if these magical theories are right, she can reverse engineer the fake poison formula. She just needs a few more pieces of the puzzle to see the full picture, urged on by Amber's story. Natasha is stunned by Amber's full account. She can't believe the danger her younger sister was in alone. She is furious that the family abandoned Amber when she was dying. She swears to ensure history never repeats itself. Natasha vows to do whatever it takes to protect her. The following morning, the Sterling household receives a special invitation. It's for the opera, hosted by the House of Ravenstone. Amber is flustered, realizing this counts as their first date. Now watch this. This is where our married couple finally starts acting like real sweethearts for once. As the performance begins, Amber watches Lord Alaric nervously, worried the high society drama might be too dull for him. It's Alaric's first time at the theater. He isn't sure if he enjoys the art, but he's happy staying with Amber. Keep it up, you two. This communication is exactly what they lacked before. We could all learn something here. Amber is delighted, reminding him that this is indeed their first date. Alaric actually blushes at the simple truth. They've shared a bed plenty of times, but these two are still acting like shy young lovers on their first night. The music rises, and the play unfolds. Surprisingly, Alaric gets way more invested in the story than Amber ever expected. He grips his chair during the war scenes where the hero falls. The hero stays strong, fueled by his love. It's clear Alaric relates to this struggle. To top it off, the opera ends with a beautiful and triumphant happy ending. Their eyes meet in the dim light. Alaric must feel the parallels between the stage and their own lives too. Amber takes his hand, softly admitting she loves how it ended. It's a rare moment of pure peace for them. Before they reach the lounge, Alaric steals a quick kiss, leaving Amber bright red. These two really need to stop. You and I both know they can't help it. The couple eventually meet the Duchess of Ravenstone to chat. They thank her, praising the performance, even as the whispers of the royalists begin to buzz all around the room. Amber isn't bothered by the gossip. She's ready to change this kingdom, aiming to make House Sterling the new center. This is where her grand plan truly begins. Step by step, Amber's strategy starts working its magic on the nobility. She gathers massive support, slowly shifting how the emperor views the importance of their rising noble house. Invitations to grand balls and tea parties flood in from every major family, proving their influence is on the rise. Suddenly, Dame Cecilia arrives with dire news. The emperor has finally agreed to meet with the envoys from Gault. What is that snake of a man planning now? Lord Alaric knows the emperor hates hearing complaints from the border. Amber suspects he'll use this meeting to spark more conflict. Luckily, Cecilia knows exactly where the envoys are currently staying. This allows Amber to intercept them before the official summons. She quickly sends a secret letter to Princess Alara. Alara leads the Gault delegation. Amber's letter warns her of the emperor's hidden trap behind this supposed peace talk. While the envoys hope for mercy, the emperor actually wants to drag out the war to benefit his own secret agenda. That emperor is absolutely vile. How can a ruler be so cruel to his own people just for more power? Princess Alara can't believe it. They already surrendered, so why would the emperor want to keep the fighting alive? Amber explains the cold truth. The emperor wants the border lords to destroy themselves through a war of attrition with limited resources. To win the princess over, Amber offers the one thing she can't refuse, the return of Gault's stolen ancestral lands. But there's a catch. The princess must side with Amber, not the emperor. Amber promises to prove her claims. A few days later, the Duke and Duchess of Stirling finally stand in the imperial palace to deliver their report. We're about to witness just how unpleasant this emperor can be. Get ready for a very tense showdown here. They are here to deliver their report. We're about to witness just how unpleasant this emperor can be today. Upon hearing the report, the emperor offers shallow congratulations while ignoring the real struggles of his brave heroes. You and I just witnessed pure arrogance. Trust me, you'll want to see how Alaric reacts to this insult. Carlisle and his knights bled for over a year, so Amelia insists those supplies aren't just some casual bonus. If the king sends them home with nothing, the fallout would be massive. Amelia knows exactly how to play him. Nobles are already whispering, wondering why the very house that saved the kingdom hasn't received a single royal thank you. Trust me, you and I are about to see if all those fancy parties actually paid off for our couple. The king realizes he is trapped and he is absolutely livid. Our couple is so brilliant, take that, you tyrant. With total reluctance, the king finally announces a grand ball to reward the Duke with the honors he truly deserves. Little did they know, Princess Daphne was watching from the shadows in disguise, seeing the king's greed with her own eyes. She has officially seen enough. Daphne decides to stop begging him for mercy and chooses to side with our Duke. Over in the eastern marches, Count Neville is being hauled away for embezzlement, and he is absolutely losing his mind. He screams about his powerful friends, but Grand Duke William and Lady Cecily aren't intimidated by his threats at all. Pay attention here. Uncovering the identity of this secret mastermind is going to be a total game changer for us. At the victory feast, Duchess Rosemont praises Amelia for making this all so public. It was a genius move, really. When the Duchess hears about Neville's arrest, she tells Amelia to check with Madame P for the real dirty details. Amelia and Cecily discuss the arrest, knowing that once the public finds out about his crimes, he is completely finished. Cecily is certain the Count wasn't working alone and promises Amelia they will hunt down whoever was helping him out. The king and his family finally arrive, looking totally miserable as they thank Duke Carleton for his service to the crown. He finally bestows a new title, Marquis of Ravensbrück. It is about time our hero got some actual respect around here. Someone calls Amelia's name, and she turns to see Prince Alistair giving her the most dazzling, radiant smile you can imagine. He looks like an absolute angel, but meanwhile, Carlisle is standing there looking incredibly uncomfortable being the center of attention. Honestly, Carlisle just wants to go back to his wife and get some praise. He is basically a giant puppy, right? You saw that look on his face, right? Yeah, Carlyle is definitely not happy seeing her talk to the prince. He wastes no time stepping in, wrapping his arms around her and making it very clear she isn't going anywhere. He is being a bit possessive, but let's be real. We all love a duke who is obsessed with his wife. Luckily, Prince Alistair is a total sweetheart. He just laughs and invites the couple outside to get some fresh air. Once they are outside, Amelia mentions the chill, and being the perfect husband, Carlyle starts taking off his own coat. But Alistair beats him to it just to mess with him. Alistair, you little troublemaker, stop teasing the jealous husband. Suddenly, things get serious. The prince warns them not to trust his mother, the Empress, no matter what she says. Even though she leads the rival faction, she is actually loyal to the king because she is hopelessly in love. Wait, what? That man is literally evil personified. Is the Empress actually blind or just completely losing her mind? After dropping that massive bomb, the prince has to head back inside to keep up his act of being sickly. Amelia hands his jacket back, telling him that her husband's coat actually matches her dress much better. Smooth move, Amelia. Look at Carlyle. He looks so incredibly flattered. Yes, Carlyle, everyone knows the Duchess only has eyes for her duke. Left alone on the balcony, Amelia thinks about the Empress's situation before leaning her head onto her husband's strong shoulder. His heart starts racing like crazy, and he finally confesses that his jealousy made him feel like he was at war. Oh my goodness, he is such a sweetheart. Who knew the strongest man in the kingdom was such a softie? She promises him that he's the only one for her, and he finally tells her how much he loves her too. And just like that, we get the kiss we've been waiting for, absolutely magical. Don't you and I agree? Just as they are heading back, Amelia spots Prince Julius. Suddenly, all the horror of her past life comes rushing back. She remembers him from her original gruesome end. What is that monster doing at a party meant to honor them? Amelia is trembling, clinging to Carlyle as she tries to understand why the man who hates them is even here. Seriously, this prince has the kind of face you just know you can never trust. He gives me the chills. When he offers his congratulations, you can practically feel the venom. Every word he says is pure, unfiltered acid. The sheer audacity of this man is unbelievable. He is acting like he didn't ruin her entire life before. Later, our power couple meets with the others and realizes the king is planning to send Carlyle back to war. Their instincts were spot on. The next time we see them, the drums of war are already beating for Arthesia. At the High Council, the Emperor raises a heated issue regarding Archeria's throne and their choice of a female heir. He claims the princess is unfit for rule, and honestly, the prejudice here is unreal. Trust me, we are just getting started. Moving on, the Emperor turns to Duke Alaric, asking if he is finally ready to take up his blade again. That is when young Prince Adrian, the fifth in line, steps forward and asks for the royal floor to speak his mind. The prince cleverly suggests using diplomacy instead of raw military force to handle the succession crisis brewing in Archeria's royal court. He recommends Duchess Amber as the lead negotiator. Seeing his growth, Amber feels a massive wave of pride for the boy. She imagines a brighter future under his rule. Later, back at the palace, our favorite couple shares a rare, quiet moment together. They joke about how soft the beds are, but Amber is distracted by her new ability to hear Alaric's thoughts. It is honestly adorable. Now, pay attention here, because this pillow talk is the absolute peak of romance in this series so far. Who would not want a relationship like this? Amber is clearly head over heels as she leans in closer to her husband. Resting her forehead against his, she tells him she loves when he speaks his heart, because that is what marriage means. At this point, I really have zero notes for these two. They are perfect, simply perfect. Before they depart, Prince Adrian is visibly buzzing with excitement about finally performing his first real duty as a high prince. He is so charming we might almost switch teams, but then Duke Alaric arrives to reclaim the spotlight as the ultimate husband. He makes sure to escort Amber personally, strategically positioning himself right between his wife and the young, overly enthusiastic prince. Easy there, Duke. Your jealousy is definitely showing again for everyone to see. The group begins the treacherous trek across the northern borders, led by a band of elite knights, including the brave Cecilia. They decide to rest at a local tavern before entering the capital, but the atmosphere turns icy when locals recognize their origins. Why are these people suddenly acting so strange and hostile toward us? The next morning, Adrian's horse vanishes after someone cuts the rope. The prince is devastated, given their long history together. While searching, Prince Adrian stumbles upon 3 local children who seem to be hiding something. He questions a trembling girl named Olivia and spots white horsehair in her locks. It is clear they were involved. The girl tearfully admits that the Emperor's men are planning to cause major trouble for Princess Ileana and the entire kingdom. Suddenly, a mysterious rider on a white stallion appears. You and I are finally meeting the crown princess herself, Lady Ileana. She found the prince's missing horse. Adrian quickly explains their mission to the surprisingly calm and collected princess. Ileana bows, explaining she was only helping the village through their current hardships despite the danger of being caught. Adrian points out that her actions could technically be seen as an intrusion into the Empire's sovereign authority. However, as a prince, he truly understands. Stopping people from starving is certainly not a crime in his eyes. Instead, he thanks her warmly. Seeing his radiant, genuine smile makes Princess Ileana blush like she never has before. Wait, is there a spark here? Are we about to lose another bachelor to the power of love? Possibly. Upon reaching the capital, a grand banquet is held. But outside the party, Amber finds Ileana looking deeply troubled and alone. They speak privately where Amber makes a shocking proposal. She suggests Ileana should temporarily renounce her right to the throne. The princess is skeptical, so Amber reveals the royalist conspiracy to crown her under Adrian's secret control. The plot involves using Ileana as a puppet queen, while the Empire pulls all the strings from the shadows. Ileana fears a betrayal, but before Amber can answer, Prince Adrian joins them with proof of his own intentions. He presents the secret ledgers of House Thalstow, giving Ileana the power to expose their coup and reclaim her own destiny. Stunned, Ileana asks for time. As the group prepares to leave days later, she finally seeks them out once more. She returns the incriminating letters. At first, the prince assumes she is going to reject their risky alliance entirely. However, Ileana simply does not want the letters. She agrees to step down from the throne, but only for the moment. In exchange, she demands the prince sign a contract. If he fails his promise, he must forfeit his very life. Being a true knight, Adrian accepts without hesitation. Trust me, you and I are both rooting for this brave prince. Eventually, they arrive back in the imperial capital, but the victory is short-lived when they receive some horrifying news. Monsters are invading the lands again, and even worse, the sacred blooms are starting to wilt and die. It is a disaster. Are we back at square one? They rush back to the east, and Amber finds their lands in a truly devastating state. Lorette soon delivers a grim report. A new, far more potent poison is spreading like wildfire through every corner of the land. All right, you and I are heading back to the east, where a mysterious blight is rotting every single crop. The people are desperate to find whoever is behind this and make them pay dearly. Suddenly, a brilliant light fills the room as Natasha arrives to meet with her sister. She brings dark news from her investigation. The terrifying truth behind this deadly poison is finally revealed. This plague was no accident, but the work of a mage, and it breaks Natasha's heart to say it. The creator of this poison was actually her own mentor, Master Bardo, which changes everything for them. She explains it was an accident on Bardo's part, but the poison's lethal potential caught someone's eye. A buyer saw its power and paid a fortune in amethyst to get their hands on it. Now watch this part closely. Bardo broke his own rules to uncover exactly who bought his deadly creation. To his shock, the buyer was the former crown prince, who now sits on the throne as emperor. The emperor, a total villain through and through, Amber is shocked when her sister offers to take charge. Natasha plans to handle the magic tower herself, but Amber fears her sister might break their ancient laws. She worries Natasha will lose her safe haven, but her sister reminds her that family always comes first. Natasha only cares about her sister's safety, feeling guilty for leaving her behind in the past. In a rare emotional moment, Natasha reaches out to wipe the tears from her younger sister's face. She whispers an apology to her only sibling. It is honestly such a touching moment between these two sisters. Just then, the Duke returns from fighting off monsters, and Amber is relieved to see him safe. Duke Karen asks about Natasha's visit, and Amber explains she is working on a cure for the poison. Later, the couple discusses their suspicions that the Emperor is the one pulling the strings this time. He has not left the capital once, which means he must be using a proxy to do his dirty work. Amber realizes there is someone out there with enough hatred in their heart to pull off such a scheme. I know you and I are thinking the exact same thing right now. Who is this mystery person? She orders Sir Bertrand to investigate, since he is their best man for gathering secret intelligence. Weeks later, the genius Natasha creates an antidote, but there is one major catch to using it. They must visit every blighted site and apply the cure with magic, keeping Natasha in the east for a while. Luckily, the magic tower granted her leave after she threatened to burn their 1,000-year-old library. Talk about a power move. She is an absolute queen for that, and her magic is just as impressive. They need to start the cleansing process immediately, so Duke Karen leads the party to the first site. The Duke and his knights charge in to clear out monsters so Natasha can focus on her spell. The Duke draws Durandal, and the blade glows with a light far different than when the Emperor held it. Amber asks why the sword looks so pure, but a monstrous roar interrupts them before she gets an answer. So close to the truth, and yet so far. That monster really ruined a perfect explanation for us. Despite the thick poison, the Duke and Natasha make a powerful team, making the cleansing look incredibly easy. This first sight proves their mission is actually manageable, giving everyone a much-needed sense of hope. Amber feels relieved as the dying lands finally start to transform back to life under their touch. Moving forward, they finally reach the most dangerous, toxin-filled region right on the edge of their border. The poison is at its absolute peak here, and Natasha knows this will be her toughest challenge yet. While the knights are busy fighting elsewhere, a bone-chilling screech echoes as a winged beast appears. The beast dives straight for their camp, and Amber is caught right in its terrifying line of sight. Feeling a strange shift in the air, Amber looks up to find a massive bird ready to strike. Natasha desperately tries to shield her sister with magic, but the monster is moving way too fast. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupts around Amber, and once it fades, the monster is simply gone. It was completely obliterated. Trust me, you and I are about to see this story get even wilder. The Duke rushes to Amber's side, while Natasha watches from the distance with a very curious expression. Later, Natasha enters the tent and confirms the impossible. The incredible magic that saved Amber was actually her own. Natalia explains this magic is far beyond her skill. Let's see what she uncovers together. She asks if Amberly ever considered her time travel was actually caused by ancient spells. Her sister suspects a godlike entity is protecting her, acting as the architect of her rebirth. This means her second chance isn't just luck, but a calculated move by a powerful benefactor. But who would go to such lengths to save her, and what is their ultimate endgame in this kingdom? Later, Sir Baran's hunt for the person spreading the Eastern Plague finally leads to a major breakthrough. He tracks the culprit's hideout while Natalia prepares an antidote for the poisoner, who is likely suffering now. She warns that if the carrier's skin has already turned pitch black, even her strongest antidote will be useless. They storm the hideout, only to find the villain responsible is none other than the disgraced Lady Belladonna. Watch this. She's lost her former glory, but her eyes are still burning with that same twisted hatred. Driven by revenge, she had volunteered for the Emperor's dark mission to spread the deadly toxin. When Amberley and Lord 𝒂𝒏 reveal her plan failed, she spirals into madness, refusing to believe her defeat. She can't accept that her sacrifice was for nothing, but the couple spots the dark rot on her skin. It's too late. The antidote won't work, and Belladonna's quest for vengeance has cost her everything. Meanwhile, Duchess 𝒂𝒓𝒚 sends an invitation to House 𝒂𝒏 for a gala honoring the young fifth prince. Amberley worries she hasn't checked on Prince Adrian since their frantic and dangerous return from the borderlands. Surprisingly, the prince is thriving, having successfully delivered his report and won the favor of the entire court. Even when his father tried to snub him, the nobles stood by Adrian, impressed by his sudden strength. He's clearly learned how to play the political game from the best role models in the entire kingdom. When the Duke and Duchess of 𝒂𝒏 arrive, the prince greets them with genuine and heartfelt enthusiasm. Grand Duke William joins them, mentioning that Dame Cecilia hasn't stopped talking about Amberley's incredible deeds. He thanks the Duchess, admitting that Amberley was the true inspiration behind Cecilia becoming a legendary knight. Elsewhere, the Emperor is absolutely seething that the couple returned to the capital unscathed by his hidden poison. He's still clueless that his grand scheme was dismantled before it could even take root in the east. He turns his fury toward Archmage 𝒂𝒏, convinced the sorcerer sold him a faulty and ineffective poison. Don't blink. 𝒂𝒏 finds a royal dagger pinned to his desk with a terrifying and urgent letter from the palace. He panics just as Lady Natalia arrives with questions, and his frantic behavior immediately raises her suspicions. She realizes he's hiding something and quickly seizes the evidence, demanding the truth about his secret royal letters. In the shadows, the king summons the crown prince, whose gaunt face looks haunting in the dim light. The king is disgusted that the heir was absent from the gala, appearing before him looking like a ghost. They discuss the rise of Prince Adrian, whom the crown prince views with nothing but pure contempt. He mocks Adrian's frail health, claiming a sickly boy could never be fit to wear the heavy crown. But the king knows the truth. The people now favor the younger prince over the ill-mannered heir. He doesn't care who wins, but if House 𝒂𝒏 backs Adrian, he'd rather see Duke Julius take control. The two villains lock eyes in silent agreement, clearly plotting a dangerous move to secure their crumbling power. After the party, Adrian meets with his allies to debrief on the shifting whispers within the palace walls. Gossip about the king's motives and Adrian's health is spreading like wildfire among the high-ranking nobility. Despite the rumors, public opinion is swinging in the prince's favor, much to the king's growing frustration. Lord 𝒂𝒏 asks when the truth about his recovery will be revealed, but Adrian is still feeling hesitant. The public still thinks he's dying, and he fears exposing his strength too early could ruin their momentum. He wants to keep the crown prince off balance, while the Grand Duke's best spies look for a fatal opening. Grand Duke William already has his best knights tailing the crown prince, looking for a fatal opening. Lady Amberley, then, investigates the southern ledger, realizing the accounts have been cleverly manipulated. The heir's illegal purchases were disguised as mundane supplies, but a trained eye sees the truth. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how they use this evidence to finally take him down. All right, you and I are diving into a mystery where the stakes just keep getting higher every single day. Outside the Alastair estate, a dark shadow lurks in the night, scouting the grounds with a hidden agenda. Days later, the family enjoys tea while a physician arrives. Seraphina had urged the Duchess to seek medical advice. The golden-haired sorceress looked so worried that Elinor couldn't help but listen to her strange, urgent warning. Arthur is spiraling with concern. If a mage sensed something, it's bad news, but Elinor just brushes him off. As the doctor begins his work, he whispers to his assistant, making Elinor feel a sudden wave of anxiety. The checkup continues with personal questions about her health. She admits her cycle has been irregular lately as requested. Suddenly, the physician asks the Duke to leave the room, but that suggestion only makes Arthur absolutely lose it. He drops to one knee, swearing he will never leave her side. He is staying right here for his Elinor. He dramatically vows he won't let death take her. His passion warms her heart and kills her lingering fear. Their tender moment is cut short as the doctor speaks. It is not an illness. The Duchess is pregnant. She is perfectly healthy, just expecting a child. The doctor offers congratulations, but Alener is left completely stunned. You saw that coming, right? Major congrats. The news is a massive shock. In her past life, she did not conceive until much, much later than this. Arthur is silent at first. When she looks at him, his eyes are overflowing with pure love and overwhelming joy. He is ecstatic to be a father. Seeing his reaction, Alener finally relaxes and shares in his deep happiness. The doctor heads out, but leaves his assistant behind, just in case the new parents need any urgent help. Now that they are alone, Arthur starts fussing over her constantly. He demands she rest and orders healthy meals. He is already telling the chef to prepare a feast fit for a queen, but Alener stops him quickly. She insists they keep the pregnancy a secret. Her mind races, wondering why the timeline has changed so drastically. Is this early child a good sign or a warning? The differences from her past life make her uneasy. Arthur agrees to stay quiet for now. That night, she fusses, but he insists on taking total care of her. She is so grateful for her husband, but his pure joy makes her feel guilty for being so nervous. This early pregnancy proves their future has shifted. Maybe she can finally breathe a little easier about their fate. She wants this child to be blessed by everyone in the Eastern Marches. But the next day, duty calls Arthur. He is summoned to the palace for urgent business. He wants Cecilia to guard her, but Alener has other plans. She reminds him of the secret and promises the reserve nights are enough. She has got this, truly. A quick kiss on the cheek and a request for his speedy return finally convinces her overprotective husband to leave. Meanwhile, at the palace, a portal tears open. An old wizard steps through and faces the king's absolute rage. The king hurls a dagger at him, and it hits the stone wall just inches from his head. He is absolutely livid because the poison they used was completely defective. He wants to wipe them out immediately. Instead of poisoning their soil again, he turns his murderous gaze toward the trembling mage standing before him. Poor Barnaby is shaking like a leaf. The king's bloodlust is reaching a dangerous and terrifying new peak. Outside, Seraphina's spirit form floats by the windows. She is searching for the prince when she hears some gossip. People are whispering about Duke Alistair's presence in the halls. She decides to track him down and see what is up. She startles the Duke, who is buried under a mountain of paperwork. He is clearly not having a good time. Arthur asks how she knew his secret. She just smiles and offers her congratulations, seeing his bright fatherly aura. Look at him go, he just wants to get home. But wait, did you catch that? Seraphina realizes something is wrong. This mountain of work was a trap to keep the Duke away from his home. She tells him to run. He needs to get back to his townhouse before it is too late. Back in the dark bedroom, as Alener sleeps peacefully, an assassin slips through the window with a sharp blade. A hand clamps over her mouth. A knife glimmers. She flashes back to the king's cruel smirk in her past. She is pinned to the mattress, unable to move. All she can do is let out a muffled scream. Suddenly, a portal bursts open. Arthur flies through the air, knocking the assassin back and disarming the killer. The attacker tries to jump out the window, but a magical lasso snaps around his waist, dragging him down hard. He is pinned. Mask off. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss who is underneath. All right, you and I are about to see a blonde woman revealed as guards arrive. Amber is clearly terrified. She is panicking about her unborn child, while Duke William feels terrible for leaving her all alone. Amber insists she can protect their baby, so William pulls her into a tight embrace, promising protection. He swears to stay by her side forever. Sometime later, Cecilia apologizes for not being there earlier. Duke William cuts Cecilia off, reminding her that her vacation days are long gone. Duty comes first. Sir Carlick greets the Duke as they dive into details regarding the mysterious assassin behind the attack. Under pressure, The attacker confessed to being hired by Prince Julius. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 wants immediate, harsh justice. But the Duke reveals the assassin poisoned herself. This is a clear declaration of war from the prince. It is time to strike back. Investigations over the past month show the prince is abusing dangerous drugs. Julius is a complete mess. Maids describe him as disheveled and gaunt, losing his mind behind closed doors. The prince locks himself away for days, screaming and smashing everything in sight. He is totally unhinged. Informants have finally confirmed his addiction. Even his brother, Prince Adrian, is absolutely stunned by this shocking news. Now the team has the facts. They need solid evidence to find the prince's secret supplier. Trust me, it won't be easy. The prince's circle is tight and his sources are well hidden. Amber suddenly remembers Nosto's secret ledgers, which might hold the key to the prince's illegal dealings. She suspects the drugs are hidden inside ordinary cargo shipments, making them nearly impossible to detect. Since the addiction continues even with Nosto imprisoned, he must have found a brand new dealer. Cecilia reveals that the prince keeps sneaking out, but every attempt to tail him has ended badly. Amber realizes there must be a specific merchant group involved. They need to investigate their shady operations. The Duke identifies them as the Eden Royal Merchant. They just need to find the secret warehouse. A few days later, they head to the racetrack in disguise. The hunt for the truth continues. Sir 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 disguises himself as a commoner, while Amber wears men's clothes to play the part of a boy. Amber looks surprisingly handsome as a boy. Let's be honest, you and I can agree she pulls off that look. The merchants use a coffee house and the racetrack. The team splits up to investigate both spots. Weeks pass at the coffee house, but Cecilia, now disguised as Cecil, has found no information yet. She joins a gambling table and hears a man mention a comrade who has gone missing lately. The man describes a strange place where people and animals can be seen together at the racetrack. Stick with me here. Carl and Amber are still at the racetrack, observing every single person. Carl is getting frustrated because they have not seen the prince at all for over a month. Despite the stress, he is always checking on Amber, worried that this mission is hurting her health. Suddenly, Amber proposes a brand new plan. They should search for hiding places instead of waiting around. Investigating the Eden Royal merchandise seems like the perfect way to trap the stubborn prince at last. They wander through the stables until they find one stall with 0 horse hoof prints at the entrance. Amber checks her ledger and notices horse vitamins. It seems normal, but her instincts tell her otherwise. This convinces her that they are standing right in front of the secret place they were seeking. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 wants to attack immediately, but Amber has a much more clever plan to trap the prince. At the unmarked stable, Crown Prince Julius arrives. Meanwhile, Amber hosts a tea party for noblewomen nearby. Including Duchess 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒚, the ladies praise Amber's brilliant idea, excited to watch the magnificent horses today. As the horses gallop across the track, Amber casually invites her noble guests to visit the nearby stables. They enter a stable with a lavish interior, filled with noble guests hiding from the public eye. The crown prince is there, brooding over his past with Nosto, the man who first gave him drugs. He actually seems thankful for the addiction, though the side effects are clearly rotting his royal mind. Julius is truly losing his sanity, his focus drifting toward the drunken aristocrats partying in the shadows. His father's arrogant face flashes in his mind, and in a rage, he throws his glass and drinks. He drinks straight from the bottle when suddenly, boom, Duke William and his knights charge into the room. Guards storm the stables and find a masked man, and you and I are about to see this scandal explode. Lady Cecilia announces the raid, telling the crowd to stay away from the criminals using illegal substances. Shock spreads as the crowd spots Prince Julian among the drugged-up mob, barely able to stand on his own. With blurry vision, Julian spots Amber and sees someone behind her. Is he hallucinating or what? He lunges for Amber while babbling, but Duke 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒅 stops him like a true knight in shining armor. Pay attention here, because the prince pulls a dagger and lunges once again for his intended target. The blade connects, but he stabs Duke Alaric in the arm instead of the woman he was after. News of the racetrack scandal spreads through the city, detailing how the prince was exposed as a degenerate. The public hears how he attacked the duke, while drugged, and learns of his hatred for the East. As the reports spread, the people's trust in their future king begins to vanish almost overnight. The imperial council meets for the first time in years, with the injured Duke Alaric and the king attending. The duke speaks first, demanding justice for the attack, but the king tries his best to protect his son. Julian is only under house arrest, a verdict that most of the nobles find completely unacceptable. One elder noble argues the prince is a man and should be punished for his crimes accordingly. The king justifies the light sentence, claiming his son will reflect and eventually atone while confined. Julian is already beyond help. Alaric stands up to present evidence of the prince's crimes, handing over a document that contains a full confession. The document proves the prince ordered an attack on the duke's wife, shocking every noble present. The nobles turn on the king, questioning the truth of the claims while the council watches closely. With the council's support, Alaric asks for a proper punishment and proposes deposing the crown prince. The council agrees, worried about Julian's ability to rule and the public's low opinion of him. The king desperately tries to defend his son's position, insisting that there must be an heir. This is the opening Alaric needs to suggest an alternative candidate to take over the crown. He nominates the fifth prince, Adrian, but the king angrily mocks the ability of the sickly boy. Julian is not the only one who is clearly insane here, as the king desperately tries to defend his addicted heir. You saw that silence, right? It breaks when Adrian walks in and rolls up his sleeve to show everyone his perfectly clear arm. He rolls up his sleeve to show clear skin, proving the dark spots of his sickness are gone. The king and the council stare in total disbelief as the healthy prince stands before them. Adrian pledges to be a suitable heir, and the rest of the council joins the elder duke's plea. After the meeting, the king summons Archmage Bardo, ordering him to speed up the production of poison. Bardo explains that a toxin powerful enough to kill the land, and people requires much more time. Meanwhile, Julian smashes a bottle and complains to the maid about the cheap wine on the floor. He spots a stain on his boot and cruelly demands that the maid lick the spilled wine. Luckily, Adrian arrives before she has to, though Julian throws a bottle that cuts his brother's skin. Adrian ignores the wound and offers his brother some advice on how to actually stay alive. Julian thinks it is just arrogance, refusing to believe his brother was ever truly cured. His threats are met by Adrian's cold stare, which stops him because this is not the boy he knew. Adrian tells him to keep a low profile, while he casually wipes Julian's boots with a handkerchief. He stuffs the dirty cloth into Julian's pocket and walks away, leaving his brother behind. Adrian bids him farewell, knowing this is the last time they will ever meet on equal footing. The king caves to the pressure and signs the decree to officially depose his own son. Alaric orders the knights to escort the former prince to the secondary palace, despite his protests. Adrian, Duchess Rastaben, and the Talisto family gather to celebrate their latest successful achievement. Amber reminds the prince of his promise regarding the East, but the king still looms over them. Adrian reveals the king's final condition, and trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to witness a royal betrayal that's going to shake this entire kingdom to its core. The royal heir finally leaves House Thorn. The knights now face the silent Duchess Ravenloft, who has been hiding something big. She warns her daughter, the queen, that Alistair taking the throne will bring a darkness nobody in the palace is prepared for. The king will do anything to protect his crown, but the ultimate fate of the realm rests in the hands of House Thorn. Meanwhile, Master Barnaby waits in his study with a glowing crystal and a strange potion, sensing magic rippling through the cold air. A portal tears open as Nora and Alina appear. He hands the elixir over, finally revealing he is not the king's puppet. He is actually working against the crown. He teaches Alina how to use the brew while she worries if the king knows. The king keeps demanding a lethal poison, but Barnaby has been doing everything in his power to stall for more time. He is terrified for his life, but while Alina offers hope, Nora warns him that magical spies are watching his every move. Watchers from the arcane tower are tracking him through amethysts. Nora tosses the potion back as they prepare to vanish into thin air. Alina teleports back to find Lord 𝒂𝒓𝒚 waiting, but their private talk is cut short by a very unexpected royal guest. The queen herself is sitting there, pleading for the king's life. This makes 𝒂𝒓𝒚 furious after all the pain they have suffered. Why spare a man who destroyed the eastern marches? But then, the queen starts revealing a secret history long forgotten by everyone. Pay attention now, because this secret history is about to change everything we thought we knew about this noble world. House Thorn finally agrees to listen. She tells a story starting with Lord Miles and the day he inherited his noble title. Lord Miles of Thorn looked weary, knowing the glittering lights of the royal palace were just a trap for his family. Even with the polite smiles of the nobles, he knew he was only there to be used for his Eastern military knowledge. He received almost no respect. Eventually, he grew sick of the capital nobles constantly mocking his home and his loyal people. He hit his breaking point and could no longer stomach being ignored by the arrogant lords of the royal city. The court believed the East was untamable, so they ignored the Duke's advice and laughed at his unique Eastern perspective. Facing their cold indifference, the Duke refused to stay quiet. He stood tall, ready to challenge every insult they threw at him. He shocked everyone by calling out the insults they had been throwing at his people and his lands for so long. The nobles were stunned by his sudden boldness. They assumed he would just sit there and take their verbal abuse quietly. The Duke walked away, leaving them frozen in shock. He didn't just ignore them, he insulted them right back with sharp words. He told them they were rotten and suggested they spent way too much time in the barns with their own livestock. He escaped to a balcony to find peace, brooding over how the Empire treated his people like they were total foreigners. He hated the unfair labels the capital put on them just because the Eastern culture was different from their own traditions. Amidst his rage, a lady with hair like a flowing river suddenly sat on the high balcony railing right above him. The Duke was stunned. He thought he was alone, but this mysterious woman had climbed somewhere no lady should ever go. He warned her it wasn't safe, but she didn't listen. He had never seen someone so captivating and wild in his life. Wait for it. This is the moment our Duke falls hard, and you and I know exactly how that feels. He realized she was from House Pendyhurst, a legendary family that served the crown for centuries before vanishing into thin air. She was the last of her line. Leaning in, she whispered a secret about a marriage proposal involving magic and roses. Enchanted tools lit up the sky for her. Miles was amazed that someone so legendary was trying to win her heart. He was genuinely curious about which lucky nobleman had gone to such romantic lengths to ask for her hand in marriage. But her mood darkened. She explained that normally, any woman would be the happiest person alive to receive such a proposal. Yet she felt only dread. Her lack of joy came from one terrifying reality. She was supposed to marry the king himself. Miles couldn't believe it. He never thought his own monarch would secretly propose to a woman from a forgotten house. The proposal was a total secret. She begged Miles for silence, fearing the king's power would cause a major public panic. She explained that her unease came from the weight of a crown she never asked to wear on her own head. Her sadness was deep. Marrying into the royal family felt more like a prison sentence than a fairy tale to her. Miles looked at her, his heart aching. He saw the pain behind the beauty of the woman the king claimed. Because her house had lost its standing, the king kept the engagement hidden from the public to avoid any noble gossip. She looked into his eyes and asked for one favor, to keep her secret safe from the prying eyes of the court. And that's where we leave it for today. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want more. Stick with me. You and I are diving into a world where a lady's reputation is everything. Spilling your heart to a new man was scandalous, But Duke Millet didn't care to him. She was just Charlotte. The woman the king wanted for himself. Even though they just met, the Duke was already completely captivated by her. He couldn't stand seeing her sad. All he wanted was to protect that radiant smile of hers forever. I think Duke Millet is falling for her fast. After that magical night, everything for him started to change. He began haunting the capital, ditching his usual habit of turning down every noble party invitation that came his way. Usually, he'd only show up for major events, hoping his presence might finally silence the rumors swirling against his house. But silencing critics wasn't the real reason he was there. Over the next few days, he had one goal. He spent every waking moment seeking out Lady Charlotte. Between them, a real, deep connection began to grow. Every reunion was filled with warmth. Charlotte would hold him tight, whispering just how much she had truly missed him. In those quiet moments, their bond grew unbreakable, finally leading to a kiss that said everything they couldn't put into words. Now pay attention, because while their love is blooming, there's a crown-wearing obstacle in their way. She finally gathered her courage and told Millet she was ending her engagement to King Alaric once and for all. They held each other close, sharing a moment of pure understanding. They promised to stay faithful, no matter the cost. They swore to wait for one another, regardless of the time. She'd do anything for love, but it won't be easy. Determined to marry the Duke of Talisto, Charlotte walked right into the palace to face the king himself. Her sudden visit caught him off guard. The king slammed his hand on the table in a fit of rage. He couldn't believe she was refusing his hand. Charlotte stood firm, declaring she had every right to choose her heart. She demanded her own autonomy, but the king's face twisted with pure malice. He wasn't going to let her go. Grabbing her chin, he hissed that she had no right to say no. He'd claimed her the moment they met. Her rejection changed nothing in his mind. As Charlotte hurried out, the king stood there, brooding in his dark disbelief. He remembered how she couldn't even speak when he first proposed. How dare she find her voice now? He'd been stalking her every move since that day, convinced that she belonged to him and him alone. Charlotte was terrified. She knew she didn't have the power to break an engagement with the most powerful man alive. That night, Millet saw the fear in her eyes. He held her, swearing he'd wait for her forever. You and I can see he knows exactly what's up. The Duke isn't as clueless as he seems. He asked her to trust him with a secret plan. But later, when Charlotte walked into her room, she froze. King Alaric was already there, waiting. He accused her of meeting the Duke of Talisto behind his back. He spat insults at the Duke and his house, mocking everything Millet worked for. Charlotte wouldn't stand for it. She tried to defend their love, but the king moved closer, his grip tightening painfully on her shoulder. He knew about their secret meetings. He continued to trash Milia's name, hoping to break her spirit right then. He questioned why she'd choose a mere duke. Charlotte gritted her teeth, taking the insults to protect Millet. The king smiled like a demon. If she chose the duke, he'd wipe Millet and his entire house off the map. Charlotte's heart sank. She realized the duke's life was now the price of her freedom, a terrifying ultimatum. What a monster. Why can't he just let her be happy? To save Millet, she had only one option left. The king held out the ring again. To keep the duke alive, Charlotte had to accept the royal proposal. Later that night, she met Millet in the shadows. With a heavy heart, she told him she was marrying Alaric. It's over, she said. Shocked, the duke grabbed her hand, asking if the king had threatened her. Charlotte lied, saying she was just tired of him. She said her final goodbyes and turned her back. She told him never to see her again. But Millet, he stood there, vowing to wait for her regardless. After breaking his heart, Charlotte climbed into the royal carriage. The king was already waiting for her inside. She confirmed the breakup, but warned the king, if he touched a single hair on the duke, it's over. On his way home, the duke realized he was so close to finishing his plan for the Eastern March's independence. Suddenly, a group of dark, hooded figures blocked his path. Meanwhile, the king thought he'd finally won the game. Trust me, you and I need to see what's next, because this king clearly underestimated the duke's true power. All right, you and I are diving into a secret plot where the Emperor planned the Duke's total destruction. Charlotte desperately tried to shield Lord Miles from the crown's reach, believing she was making the only right choice possible. Suddenly, she found Miles collapsed at her doorstep, broken and bloodied, barely clinging to his life in that cold night. With his last bit of strength, he whispered that he finally understood why she broke his heart. It was for him. By morning, he woke to find Charlotte clutching him tight, terrified that this might be the very last time together. Looking at his brutal wounds, she feared he wouldn't survive the night, her heart shattering with every single shallow breath. Realizing the Emperor played her for a fool, she demanded an immediate escape to the east to marry her love. The Duke was stunned, while the Emperor received a cold letter from Charlotte, cutting all ties with his treacherous crown. She refused to trust her life to a traitor, but their journey home was about to hit a massive wall. Now pay attention, because the Emperor himself was waiting right at the gates to block their final path to freedom. He demanded to know why she would choose a mere lord over a throne, but Charlotte did not flinch once. She called him out for every broken promise, igniting a royal rage that shook the very ground they stood upon. The Emperor claimed everything was for her, but Charlotte stood tall, finally embracing her true identity and her own power. She mocked his inability to win a heart without lies, proving she was no longer a pawn in his game. Turning her back on the crown, she led Miles toward the east, leaving the furious monarch screaming into the wind. Consumed by spite, the Emperor spat out a curse on the land, swearing she would regret this choice forevermore. They found a brief peace in the east, celebrating a wedding that defied a kingdom, but the darkness lingered close. The curse took hold, turning fertile fields into dust and ash as the land itself began to slowly wither away. Tragedy struck when both Charlotte and Miles died on the same day, leaving their people broken and without a leader. The young heir fled his duty in fear, allowing a corrupt snake to seize control of their once great home. Back in the present, Janata reveals that this was the Emperor's most deeply buried, shameful secret. 𝒂𝒓𝒄𝒆 listens intently, still trying to grasp why such a bottomless hatred burned for the former Lord Miles. Janata knows the Duke and Adrian have secured victory, yet she still begs to spare the Emperor's life. 𝒂𝒆 considers a second chance, but Lady Amber, a daughter of the East, insists on setting her own terms. If Janata can force the Emperor to abandon his obsession, only then will they let the mad king live. If the Emperor can abandon his dark obsession, only then will they spare his life. But really, what for? Later that night, 𝒂𝒆 and Amber discuss how the Emperor fails to control his own darkest emotions. 𝒂𝒆 admits he understands the agony of loss, even if he cannot forgive the Emperor's many cruel, bloody crimes. He confesses that if Amber were ever stolen from him, he might lose himself to that same dark madness. Amber reminds him that their love is bigger than themselves, extending to their people and their precious unborn child. They carry a responsibility that outweighs personal pain, choosing a path the Emperor could never even imagine walking. Now, I know what you are thinking. Can a man that selfish ever truly be saved from himself? She sees the massive gap between 𝒂𝒆's honor and the Emperor's greed, fearing their mercy might be a mistake. He comforts her, keeping the darkest details hidden while trying to ease the heavy weight resting on her shoulders. Amber sees a reflection of her own struggles in Janata, deciding to give the woman a chance at closure. Even if time cannot be reversed, she wants Janata to face her past and the man she once loved. He prays for her success, hoping this final confrontation brings some peace to a long, tragic history of pain. I feel so bad for her, but honestly, love is just as complicated as it gets. Meanwhile, the Emperor prepares a final, forbidden blood magic to turn the entire East into nothing but cold ash. The man hasn't changed a bit, clearly proving he doesn't deserve even a single ounce of their mercy. His aide warns him of the danger, but the Emperor is far too gone to listen to reason. The aide can only watch in horror as the cruel cycle begins again, threatening the lives of thousands. A sudden knock breaks the silence. It's Janata, finally stopping her flight to face the man she fears most. She is tired of running from the inevitable, hoping that this one final conversation might actually change their fate. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see if she can stop this monster before everything burns. All right, stick with me, because this marriage is about to take a dark turn. Even now, King Alaric's cold gaze cuts her deep, assuming she only wants more power. She bore him Prince Julian, yet she longs for a connection she can't even name. Within this political union, she feels his heart belongs to another, leaving her utterly shattered. After decades of silence, she finally speaks out, but he spits at her words with pure disgust. She begs him to release the eastern marches to save them, but he refuses to understand her. He thinks Prince Julian or the Thornhurst lords forced her hand, but he is dead wrong. It wasn't pity driving her, but a desperate love he refuses to acknowledge or even see. To him, love is a worthless curse, a weakness that brings nothing but misery and ruin. Broken and exhausted, Lady Genevieve drops to her knees in a fit of pure agony. She doesn't regret the love itself, just the years she wasted devoted to a heartless man. Tears stream down as she realizes she's no better than the Emperor when she falls in love. Elsewhere, Prince Julian asks the Dowager if she was the spark that moved his mother to act. Nothing changes the truth, though. His father is a monster who cannot be reasoned with at all. Julian decides it's easier to end the king's life than to change his mind, so he calls his knights. He orders them to prepare for a deadly operation in 2 days during the grand audience. Now watch this part carefully. Is he actually going to kill his own father? Duke Alastair receives the letter from Julian confirming that everything is ready for the coming day. Lady Alina is visibly trembling with fear for their future, despite Alastair's attempts to calm her down. He promises a bright future, where they live happily in a free and completely transformed East. But Alina can't shake the ghosts of the past or the brutal memories of the war. Her terror of the Emperor is real, but it's that very fear that gives her strength now. Alastair vows that even if the king says no, they will follow through with their secret plan. She looks at him, realizing he is the greatest gift her new choices have ever given her. Once the dust settles, she has a long story to tell him, and he'll listen to every word. I know what you're thinking. These two are the absolute perfect couple, right? The next morning, Duke Alastair and Lady Alina arrive at the gates of the imperial palace. Alastair enters the throne room alone, where the king mocks him about his recent noble titles. The duke drops to one knee, boldly demanding the total independence of the eastern marches. He insists Thornhurst must become its own sovereign nation after years of neglect from the crown. The East suffered through drought and starvation, while the Empire sat back and did absolutely nothing. Despite being ignored, the duchy stayed loyal, but Alastair declares that those days are finally over. He stands tall, presenting a decree signed by every noble and all the neighboring foreign kingdoms. This move ensures the East will never again be subject to the cruel whims of the king. Before entering the den of lions, the Duke had been warned to watch his back carefully. Meanwhile, Lady Natalie watches the entire confrontation through a magical communication crystal she set up. She wonders if Alastair can actually persuade the tyrant, but Alina is far more doubtful. Alina stares at the crystal, silently praying for a miracle as the tension reaches a breaking point. On the other side, the king remembers Genevieve's pleas for the East and just starts laughing. He finds the whole situation hilarious, showing just how heartless a ruler he's truly become. Then, the king grants permission, but suddenly warriors surround the duke with blades at his throat. If he can escape this trap alive, the East is his, but history seems to be repeating. Black smoke and dark magic erupt from the king as his assassins rush to kill the duke. Outside the room, a young man watches the crystal in confusion, wondering who these mysterious attackers are. Trust me, you and I are about to see this legend truly begin. All right, you and I are about to dive into the final showdown. The king's personal guard can't believe those borderland brutes were even allowed inside the royal citadel. Sila's usurpant, your reign ends here. Stop this madness and face the consequences. Meanwhile, the Duke continues his desperate duel against the northern shadows. Even in the heat of battle, the man looks like a true highborn hero. Seeing the Duke grip his blade with such lethal intent, the king realizes he is staring death in the face. This is no mere skirmish anymore. The king lunges forward, sword raised, desperate to cut down the Duke and extinguish his noble lineage once and for all. But the Duke possesses a hidden strength that leaves the king staggered. Meanwhile, the lords outside the chamber are growing restless. They whisper about the court mage who brewed the king's venom, but little do they know, the Duchess has already won his loyalty. Still, if that magical barrier remains standing, they cannot intervene to save the Duke from the king's wrath. Elinor can't bear to watch any longer. She weeps as she witnesses her husband fighting a losing battle against the tyrant. She begs Vivienne to teleport them inside, but the mage explains the spell is dead. A unique, ancient seal is blocking their path. This ward only allows those with a specific bloodline aura to pass through. It is a defense meant for kings and legends. Vivienne wonders where on earth such a relic was found. It is an enchanted tool forged from the oldest of arcane magics. Sir Geoffrey stands firm. Wait, wasn't he the one who originally provided the king with that lethal poison? Only a being with divine power could hope to shatter a barrier like this. Elinor suddenly realizes her past journey might be the key. Could her voyage through time have been blessed by the gods themselves? She stares at her hand, wondering why she missed this before. Steel clashes as Silas and Duke Cedric engage in a brutal, final struggle for the throne. Look closely here, the Duke's sword is knocked away. As he lunges for it, Silas moves in for the killing blow. This is it. But Cedric refuses to fall. He makes a silent vow to protect Elinor and their unborn heir at any cost. With a roar of defiance, he recovers his blade and parries Silas's strike just in time. His resolve is absolutely unbreakable. Cedric is the very picture of a legendary knight. Meanwhile, Vivienne is losing her mind trying to find a way through the barrier. She frantically cycles through every spell in her book, but nothing works. Suddenly, Elinor vanishes right before her eyes. Elinor reappears inside the chamber, shocking everyone. Vivienne is left stunned, wondering if the Duchess has been hiding magical talents all along. Now, you and I are about to see something truly impossible. It isn't Elinor using magic, it's her unborn child. A blinding flash fills the room. A small girl stands with her back turned, watching a golden sunset from within the light. When she turns to face Elinor, her smile is like pure radiance. She runs toward her mother, seeking the embrace she never had. In that heartbeat, Elinor's past lives flash before her. The crushing regret of failing to protect her child is finally washing away. But her daughter knows her heart. She has come back to give Elinor the strength to change their fate once and for all. Elinor weeps, begging for forgiveness and thanking the heavens for this miracle. Her daughter just shakes her head softly. This chance only exists because Elinor never gave up on her. Her love was the anchor that brought them back together. The girl whispers her thanks for everything her mother endured. But the time for reunions is short. They must act now. She warns them about the king's blade, Durandal. Silas holds the weapon, but he has no idea how to unlock its true divinity. As Elinor asks what they should do, Cedric suddenly appears beside them, transported by the same mysterious, holy light. He looks at the little girl, breathless, wondering if she really is his daughter. But there isn't a second to waste. The girl takes both their hands, telling them they must fight as one to secure their future. She is definitely their child. Her courage and kindness are the perfect reflection of her parents. As their fingers lock, the world begins to glow. A massive beam of light erupts, and when the dust clears, they are standing directly in front of the panicked king. Total shock washes over Silas. He can't understand how Elinor bypassed his absolute defense. He screams for his guards to seize them. But before anyone can move, the couple draws the holy blade Durandal. It begins to shine with a light from the legends. Durandal, the sword of truth, cannot tolerate lies. Its true form only reveals itself to those with pure, unwavering faith. As the steel turns transparent and radiates blinding power, the ultimate strength of the blade is finally unleashed by Alenar and Cedric. The sword's true form signals the end for the king's deceitful reign. Light explodes from the blade, shattering everything in its path. Inside the throne room, the very foundations crack under the weight of the divine judgment Alenar and her husband now wield. Outside, Prince Edward is already making his move. He commands his knights to round up every traitor who deceived the crown. The false king has lost everything. After these crimes, Silas has no right to wear the crown or lead this kingdom. So, what do you and I take from all this? Silas has lost his right to rule, proving that karma always catches up. All right, stick with me, because this noble couple is about to face their greatest nightmare. She thinks of the child they have not even met yet, drawing courage from that future bond during this chaos. They smile at the thought of their brave daughter. Suddenly, Alara spots Alaric slipping into a hidden chamber. They chase after him, determined to end this. Inside, they find a sight that chills them to the bone. Alaric stands within a glowing magic circle, chanting a forbidden spell that illuminates the entire stone floor in gold. Cedric realizes the mad prince is using poison again, but this time, the toxic cloud is designed to be lethal. Queen Isabella hides nearby, and Alara panics. If Alaric releases this, his own wife will perish along with everyone. The entire kingdom will suffer for his vanity. Alaric has completely lost his mind to this dark, desperate magic. Alara begs him to stop, but his heart is stone. He is consumed by a foolish rage that knows no bounds. He screams about the throne, claiming he was born for glory and cannot stand those who try to succeed. There is no regret in his actions, only the bitter memories of a past that finally broke his spirit. A vision flashes back to him being beaten for failing to surpass the Duke, a dark cycle that never ended. Now he will kill anyone who touches his crown. He decides to finish this with his own 2 hands today. Suddenly, he slices his palms. His blood spills onto the magic circle, fueling the ancient and deadly spell below him. This magic will turn anyone who sets foot on the eastern soil into ash. He is truly a monster. Now watch closely, because everything Alaric planned is about to blow up in his face. It is absolute madness. Alaric lunges at Cedric but freezes. He gasps, coughing up a spray of dark blood as his body suddenly fails. Alara watches coldly, telling him he should have let go. The prince has fallen victim to his own cruel trap. The poison he intended for the East is now consuming him. His death finally brings peace to the suffering borders. He alone suffers the consequences of his betrayal. Karma has finally come to collect its debt from this wicked man. Suddenly, the queen throws herself at Alara's feet. She begs for his life, promising to serve the East forever instead. Alara hesitates, her heart softening. She wonders if her child knows how to neutralize such a powerful, ancient toxin. But Alara, you are being far too kind to a traitor. She draws Durandal and points it at Alaric. She demands he abdicate the throne and never threaten them again. Durandal, the sword of truth, begins to glow brightly. Its magic binds the soul to a promise. As long as he stays away, the sword's power will keep him alive. Isabella begs him to just give up, but Alaric merely smirks. He spits on the legendary blade in pure defiance. He would rather die than admit he was wrong. He coughs more blood, clutching his chest as the life fades. With his final breath, he mocks them, saying human suffering was always his favorite form of entertainment. What a fool. How can anyone be this evil? He literally enjoyed the pain of others until the very last second of life. You saw that too, right? He deserved it. Now, back at the palace, Beatrice warmly greets Alara. They talk about the baby, and Beatrice is stunned. She suspects the unborn child is the mysterious mage helping them. Beatrice believes this child might even surpass the legendary sorcerer who founded the great arcane citadel many centuries ago. That legend used magic after birth, but Alara's child is already casting spells from within the womb. It is truly unheard of. The child even turned back time itself, but Alara stops her, not ready to tell Cedric the full truth yet. As Beatrice prepares to leave, she pulls Alara into a warm embrace, praising her for surviving such a brutal ordeal. Duke Cedric arrives, looking like a mess, and tells Alara to rest. He is exhausted but relieved she is safe. Even covered in blood, Alara offers to help him clean up. She suggests a quiet, warm dinner for just them. After all this tragedy, Alara has a confession to make. They finally retreat to their private chambers to find peace. Cedric watches her eat with a soft smile, his heart full. He reaches out to gently touch her face. With a tender look, he tells her he is ready to listen. Alara takes a deep breath, her eyes serious. She is terrified of his reaction, but she must be honest. She reveals that this is actually her second life. Cedric is frozen in shock as Alara explains everything. She tells him about the previous timeline they shared together once. In that life, she was powerless and ignored, right until the moment Prince Alaric executed her in the palace gardens. She lived with deep regret for that past life. She believes this second chance was born from that intense sorrow. So what do you and I think? Is Alara finally safe? Stick around because this legend is just starting. All right, you and I are watching the moment Amber finally spills the truth to her shocked husband. She knows it sounds impossible, but her memories are too vivid to be dismissed as simple dreams. Seeing their child together confirms everything. Amber feels heavy guilt for hiding this for such a long time. Lord Carlisle breaks down crying. He hates that he failed to protect her in that previous life. He too had faced a nightmare, fighting to protect the East from the cruelty of Emperor 𝒂𝒏. Carlisle holds her hand, apologizing for his failings and thanking her for staying in the East. Despite his kindness, Amber remains burdened. She reveals this knowledge came from her very own past life. Carlisle disagrees, telling her not to feel guilty. She chose to stay when she could have fled. He respects her deeply for saving them. For that, she has his absolute and eternal admiration. After this emotional confession, they share a deep conversation in each other's arms, finding peace. They share a night of intimacy. Carlisle is the kind of husband that every woman dreams of. That night, Carlisle dreams of the past. He sees Amber asking him why he is protecting her. Now pay attention. The dream reveals the horrific torture he endured, and Emperor 𝒂𝒏 mocking him before death. Carlisle wakes up in tears. Was that truly the previous life Amber mentioned? He feels like a monster. He wonders if he would be capable of Amber's sacrifice if he were given a second chance. He doesn't think so, not in a million years. Amber wakes up and finds him shaking with fear. She comforts him, whispering that it was just a nightmare and holding him tight until the morning. 5 months later, an invitation arrives from the Crown Prince for his sudden, final coronation ceremony. It is unexpectedly early, especially since he has only been the Crown Prince for a single month. Despite the haste, Carlisle is hopeful. He wonders what a new emperor will mean for their future. Suddenly, Lady Natasha reveals she received an invitation too. She is clearly not pleased, calling it a hassle. Amber finds Natasha's bold reaction surprising. Then, her eyes fall on Natasha's necklace, which is trembling. It shakes persistently. Natasha dismisses it, but the vibrations intensify until she is forced to remove it. She places it on the table. Baron Bardo appears, asking about the baby and its potential name. They haven't decided on a name yet. Suddenly, he asks if they've spoken to the magic tower. Amber's mood shifts. She has no intention of sending her daughter to the magic tower against her will. Bardo tries to argue, but Natasha intervenes, seizing the necklace and denying him any chance to speak. Amber always protects her daughter's rights. In the middle of the discussion, Carlisle prepares for social events. He is dressed perfectly, intending to show everyone that the Crown and House Riot are firmly aligned. Amber knows this is about power. They need to demonstrate strength and silence any rumors of weakness. She wants to dispel any lingering doubts. It is true that a noble appearance can impress people. I know what you're thinking. They look stunning, but this visual display of power is exactly what they need. Natasha excuses herself, asking Amber to tell the prince she will not be attending the coronation. Carlisle looks at Amber with genuine concern, asking if she truly plans to attend the event. Amber reassures him she will go. She knows that declining an invitation from the crown would be impolite. Carlisle worries again, urging her to stay home if it is difficult, but she promises she is fine. His expression is so cute, it makes me want a husband just like him. Their bond is stronger now. Ever since she shared her past, many things have changed, bringing her a sense of enduring happiness. The connection they have had from the beginning remains, and she is confident this joy will continue. At the coronation, Prince Adrian makes a shocking reveal. The long drought was never a natural event. It was a man-made poison created by Emperor Duchess. The entire empire owes the East a massive debt. The prince vows to repay them and build a new era. His words move everyone in attendance. Smiles fill the room. Finally, the people can return to their rightful lands in the East. This is the kind of ruler the people deserve. We are definitely going to expect big things. Finally, Amber gives birth to a healthy girl. And as Carlisle holds her, we know their future is bright. All right, you and I are about to witness the beautiful beginning of a truly legendary noble house. He wishes for her to live a radiant life in the beautiful Eastern Reach, even though she lacks magic. The girl is a blessing. Grateful for her life, she looks at Cedric and asks for a kiss, which he gladly gives. After their long struggles, they deserve this peace. 5 years later, the estate is buzzing with life for Lesha's 6th birthday and the Duchy of Thorn's Independence Day. Inside the manor, the maids are frantically searching for the young lady. Earlier that morning, a maid had finished dressing her and stepped away, but upon returning, Lesha had vanished. Amber joins the search, knowing her daughter's tendency to wander. Reflecting on their time together, Amber marvels at Lesha's incredible magical talent, which includes telepathy, levitation, and even rapid growth charms. While searching, Amber finds a door to the treasury standing open. Inside, she finds Lesha trembling with fear. With tear-filled eyes, the girl clutches her mother's gown. In a voice heavy with terror, Lesha begs her mother to save her. But here is the thing you and I need to watch closely. Those tears are from haunting past memories. She remembers when Cedric and Amber fought the wicked king of deceit. Now she feels driven to help her past mother one last time. Still, doubt lingers about whether she can succeed in this critical moment. The moment Lesha appears, her presence proves vital to them. If she hadn't intervened, their lives were in grave danger. Seeing the worry and fear in her daughter's eyes, Amber offers her words of encouragement. She assures the girl she will do well. Lesha's mood brightens, and in a flash of light, they are teleported to the orchard where they first met. Amber watches Lesha speaking with their past selves to finish the task. Afterward, Lesha asks if she did well, and Amber responds with a beaming smile, confirming her daughter's success. With Lesha believing the danger is truly over, a sense of relief washes over her. The grand celebration continues perfectly, with the townspeople cheering and laughing in the streets. Lesha enjoys her birthday sweets while her parents share joyful looks. They even whisper about their plans for later that night. As everything goes perfectly, what could possibly go wrong? Jane pushes a cart, overflowing with gifts for Lesha, and her face lights up. The girl looks ecstatic receiving the beautiful presents. Together, they spend the night rejoicing while opening the gifts. Later that night, despite the parents' wishes for her to sleep, Lesha is far too excited. Her heart is still racing from such a special day. Amber has a brilliant idea. She suggests they extend the celebration for just the 3 of them. Lesha's eyes widen with delight as she agrees. During their private family party, they enjoy cookies and milk, treasuring the quiet night together. Eventually, the little girl falls asleep in her mother's lap, a sign she loved her special day. She truly is a divine blessing to this noble couple. Now pay attention, because the couple finally retires to their chambers for a passionate night of their own. Amidst their heated embrace, Amber shares that her heart is pounding as if it might explode. She asks Cedric to go slower, but his anticipation is too great. They spend the night expressing their profound love for one another. After their intimate moment, Cedric notices Amber staring out the window and asks why. Out of nowhere, she wonders if they are all characters in a play. Confused, Cedric isn't sure how to respond. In Amber's mind, their story is a classic romance, much like the plays they watched. Together, she reflects that those stories always have happy endings, and though she once found them childish, she now appreciates the joy they bring. Intrigued, Cedric asks which part of the play they are currently in. Amber believes they have reached the part where the crowd erupts in applause after the heroes overcome every adversity and emerge victorious. Cedric agrees it is a fitting point. Looking ahead, Amber hopes that any new story that follows will end just as happily as this one. As they hold each other close, large snowflakes begin to fall from the sky. Excitedly, she shares the news and rushes to watch the snow. The sight makes her think of playing with her daughter. Certain Lesha will be thrilled when she wakes up. Surrounded by the falling snow, they spend the rest of the night happily together. And trust me, as the curtains of life rise and fall, their story concludes with a brand new happiness. The struggle ends, and the final curtains fall. They will live happily ever after in the enchanting conclusion of this grand romance. Cedric and Alina find peace in the falling snow, a celestial blessing on their long and difficult journey through the kingdom. Echoes of their adventures and trials ring through the night, harmonizing into a sweet, gentle lullaby. Let that sink in for a second. As the curtain falls, they embrace the promise of a future yet unwritten. They are confident that each new chapter will unfold with grace, like a timeless melody that will linger in their hearts forever. Thank you for following Cedric and Alina's journey with me. I truly hope you enjoyed this magical tale from start to finish. For more recaps like this, comment below with the titles you want us to cover, and we will get them ready for you. See you soon.